Good evening. I'm calling to order the Monday, April 13th, 2026 Board of Education meeting open session. I am looking for approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Ms. McKenzie's made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Queen, second. Is there any discussion? I call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. It's unanimous, Mrs. Manley. All righty, I'm looking for a motion to go into closed session for the following reasons. Applicants for new hires, resignations, volunteers, transfers, extra pay for extra duty, and any other personnel matters. The reason for this being public discussion of applicants and employee names and personal information could discourage people from working for the board and contain sensitive personal and biographical information. Personnel information is protected from disclosure under the MPIA. Secondly, to obtain legal advice from counsel regarding student expression under the First Amendment and related Maryland laws and law related to cell phones in schools. The reason for this being substance of discussion is protected by attorney-client privilege. And thirdly, discussion of negotiations with Kent County Public Schools bargaining units. And the reason for that is to maintain the integrity of the collective bargaining process. I'm looking for a motion to go into closed sessions for those reasons.
I'll make that a motion.
Ms. Dorsey has made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Queen has made the second. Is there any discussion? I call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. I'm going to adjourn the open session. We're going to go into closed session. We will resume the open session at 6. April 13th, 2026 Board of Education meeting. The first thing I want to do is report on closed session. We met to discuss collective bargaining, personnel, and to get legal advice on two issues: student expression and cell phone policies, which are going to be required by the State Board of Education in the next year or so. Meeting in closed session were all members of the board, Dr. McComas, her executive assistant, Ms. Manley, Mr. Hushin, supervisor of human resources, our legal counsel, Adam Constance, and our chief financial officer, Craig Kirby. No action was taken in closed session. All righty, Ms. Swanson, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty, the first thing I'm going to be doing is looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. On the consent agenda are minutes from our March 9th, 2026 open session meeting, our March 23rd quarterly work session, which was basically devoted to budget, donation approval, a policy series 5,000 update, and personnel actions. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Ms. McKenzie made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Flip a coin, guys. Who is it?
Frank.
All righty, Mr. Rhodes seconded. Is there any discussion? I call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
It is Ms. Swanson.
Aye.
All righty, it's unanimous. Mrs. Manley, did anybody sign up for public participation? Thank you. Thank you very much. Elizabeth Tussing is going to be talking about the music program district-wide and fine arts education. Just a couple of reminders about public participation. Speakers should limit their comments to 3 minutes. Comments about the actions or statements of individual staff members are not appropriate for public comment and should be referred to the superintendent of schools or processed through available channels. If submitting written testimony, speakers are requested to provide a copy to the board president. Please remember that this is an opportunity for the community to address their comments to the board. It is not an opportunity for dialogue. Sometimes the public gets frustrated because they'll say something to us and they expect us to respond. We don't respond, we just listen. If you have questions that need an answer, please contact the superintendent or write a letter to the Board of Education, and a response will be sent back to you. Before we start, Dr. McComas, you just want to tell people about the library
Yes,
situation?
thank you, Ms. Tussing, for a second before we, I just want to let everyone know that there's, Kent Library is having some power issues that may be cutting off power to the network equipment that we also use. So it may be possible that we lose internet for those who are streaming or watching the program. The recording can be uploaded later if we do lose that internet connection. I just wanted to let anybody who may be viewing remotely be aware of that. So thank you, Ms. Tussing.
I can't get internet right now, so I don't know if it's just me, but alrighty, Ms. Tussing, you now have our undivided attention. Dr. McComas, your timing?
Yes,
Alrighty.
I'm out. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. McComas, President McGee, and board members. I'm speaking tonight about the state of the fine arts education in our district, specifically music, and what appears to be a steady erosion of the program. Right now, our county has only 2 certified music teachers. Other schools are relying on long-term substitutes, not as a short-term fix, but as a sustained solution. At the same time, certified staff are being stretched across multiple schools, resulting in inconsistent instruction and lost construction time for students. We've gone from offering music classes for 5 days a week to, in some cases, only 2. Students who are interested in pursuing music, even as a career, are unable to access these classes at all. And with the removal of the programs like the 5th grade band, we are actively closing the pipeline that introduces students to the music in the first place. But this isn't the issue that starts even earlier than that. Early childhood music programs like Kinder Music and other foundational music experiences are not just the singing of songs. They are directly tied to the language development, memory, motor skills, and social emotional growth. Music helps build the very skills that support reading, math, and communication. When we underfund and overlook the music in the early years, we are not just cutting an elective. We are removing a critical tool for child development. This is happening while we continue to promote STEAM education, and right now the A for arts is not being supported in any meaningful or substantial way. What's most concerning is that this doesn't look like a temporary challenge. It looks like a pattern. When programs are understaffed, when certified educators are replaced with substitutes, when instructional time is reduced, and when student pathways are removed, the outcome is predictable. The program disappears. And once it's gone, rebuilding it is far more difficult than maintaining it. We have students who need it, not just for enrichment, but for development, engagement, and connection. Music plays that critical role in supporting students with speech and language needs. The use of language, repetition, and melody strengthens auditory processing, improves articulation, and is widely used as a tool within speech therapy. For some students, music is not just an enrichment, it's their pathway to communication. And we have the educators trying to hold all of this together under increasingly difficult conditions. So my question tonight is this: what is the district's concrete plan to stabilize, support, and rebuild fine arts education from the early childhood through high school over the next 3 to 5 years? And how will you ensure that the students currently in the system are not the ones who lose access while the plan is being figured out? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Manley? All righty, we will move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. McComas?
Yes, so good evening, everyone. We're going to kick off with our student athlete recognition. I know there's so many families and students here tonight. So Mr. Hushin, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. McComas. School Board President McGee, school board members. Joining me tonight is our high school principal, Chris Hemstetter, to honor and celebrate our outstanding individual athletes from this past 25-26 winter season. The athletes, just to talk about the process, when your name is called, please come up, stand up here, and then once all athletes are up here, we'll call up all coaches for one large photo. And if I could have Dr. McComas and our entire school board come down here to see our athletes, and we will start the program.
Wants to come now, right?
Yep.
Okay, good evening, President McGee, Dr. McComas, members of the board, and the Kent County Public Schools community. Tonight, it is my honor to recognize an outstanding group of Kent County High School student athletes for their achievements in winter athletics. At KCHS, our values, which we voted on and we live by, include rising together, R-I-S-E, through respect, integrity, success, and empowerment. And these students exemplify those values every single day. What makes this group especially remarkable is not just what they have accomplished on the field, the mat, the track, or in the pool, but how they have accomplished it. These students are scholars and they're also leaders. They are engaged in internships, teacher academy programs, STEM pathways, Maryland Business Roundtable Next Generation Scholars, advanced placement, and dual enrollment courses, among many other things. Many have also navigated challenges through 504 plans, through individual educational plans, and other supports, showing resilience, grit, and determination. They demonstrate what it means to succeed, not without boundaries, but by overcoming barriers. And tonight, I want to recognize, along with them, the families and the coaches that are here with us. Your support, your encouragement, and commitment are critical to these students' success. Thank you for the countless hours, sacrifices, and belief that you pour into them. Tonight, without further ado, we celebrate not just their achievements, but their perseverance, growth, and also their leadership. So I'm going to call your name and just talk about why you're being awarded or celebrated this evening. So when you hear your name, come up, and then we'll get a picture all together. So number 1, Scotty Ford. Scotty earned 4th place in the state of Maryland in wrestling. At 165 pounds. He is a region champion, a conference champion.
He's completed an undefeated regular season and is a proud member of the 100-win club. An incredible display of consistency, discipline, and excellence on the mat. Congratulations, Scotty. Ty Bellerin. Ty is a Maryland state champion in wrestling at 132 pounds. That is #1 in the state of Maryland. He's also a region champion and a Bayside Conference runner-up. Reaching the top of the podium at the state level is an extraordinary accomplishment. Congratulations, Ty. Talicia Wright. Talicia earned honorable mention All Bayside North in women's basketball, demonstrating strong leadership and teamwork. Congratulations, Talicia. Jane Cleary. Jane earned also honorable mention All Bayside North in women's basketball, reflecting her dedication and consistency. Way to go, Jane. Aaliyah Waits. Aaliyah earned also honorable mention All Bayside North in women's basketball, making a strong impact on her team. Mary Jane Joyner. Mary Jane broke a 25-year-old school record in the 100-meter butterfly, an incredible and historic achievement. Way to go, Mary Jane. Tucker Irvin. Tucker is a regional champion across 1A, 2A, and 3A in the 100 freestyle. A remarkable accomplishment showcasing his elite performance. Way to go, Tucker. Kiari Hawkins. Kiari is an indoor track regional champion and placed second in the state of Maryland in shot put, demonstrating strength and competitive excellence. And last but not least, Pacome. Pacome placed second in the region in the 800 meters and 10th in the state of Maryland. As a student from France, he represents both global connection and also Trojan pride. Please join me in congratulating these exceptional student athletes along with their families and coaches who support them each and every day. We are incredibly proud of you, not just for your achievements, but for the way you represent Kent County High School. You truly embody what it means to rise. Thank you, and if we could have coaches up, yes, so we can get your picture.
All right. Everybody eyes on me. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know that my body knows how to do it. I don't know that my body would know how to run anymore.
I never did. I get a pain in my side in the neck. Just the manager or something. You know what I mean?
I do.
Righty.
Those that could.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Dr. McComas, continue.
Yes, ma'am. So our next order of business here for my report is our personnel recognition. So while our team hopefully is queuing that up, our video, if you recall, we've launched a new series of recognitions for our employees. And we show up as a flash mob surprise reward for those employees who are nominated. And we create a little video. So this month's recognition is ready to roll, I think.
We have a whole crew here. The April's Captain Award. We're highly deserving of this nomination for your dedication, leadership, and outstanding commitment that you demonstrate each day in support of Kent County Public Schools and Galena Elementary School. You were highly motivated to achieve and consistently go above and beyond to support both students and colleagues. Through her leadership as the Kent County Public School Lead Teacher Initiative, she is helping to strengthen instructional practices across the school district while building the capacity of fellow educators. But congratulations.
Thanks.
Very well deserved. Compass Award winner. As a colleague, Longstraw, I have witnessed firsthand the extraordinary dedication, skill, and heart she brings to her classroom every single day. She's by far and away the most deserving member at Kent County High School for this award. You do far more than just teach math. You are always ensuring your students have confidence. You embrace curiosity, and your students know that they can ask any question at any time in your classroom, and know that their question will not be met with stifled giggles, but instead with the utmost respect from their peers. Her classroom at the very end of the 600 wing is a place where every student feels seen, heard, and valued. Congratulations. Next month, as the Lighthouse Award winner for April, Lindsay is our Lighthouse Award winner because she consistently serves as a positive guiding presence in our building. She is always kind and approachable, creating a welcoming and supportive environment for both students and staff. Her gentle and patient nature with students allows her to build strong, trusting relationships, especially with those who need it most. She's always willing to step in and help whenever needed. No matter the task, she approaches it with a positive attitude and a true team mindset. Her willingness to support others does not go unnoticed and makes a meaningful difference in our school community. Perseverance of overcoming obstacles, innovation, and flexibility, exemplifying outstanding commitment to Kent County Public Schools and the value of putting students first, collaboration, and commitment to excellence. You were nominated by one of your colleagues, and I think the first sentence is really the real reason why you won this award. Tracy G is the navigator, the whole thing. When it comes to paraschool, if you need something, she is there. If you're having a problem, she's always willing to lend a helping hand. She's kind, she is compassionate, and she bends over backwards to help in any way she can. She ensures everyone is up to date with training and responds quickly to issues. She has been a fantastic co-worker, along with an essential part of Kent County Public Schools. Thank you, Tracy. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Creates a welcoming and inclusive classroom environment in which students can improve and support. Hannah is highly skilled, presence to meet the needs of all students and goes above and beyond to ensure that each student makes herself engaged, challenged, and always working to inspire and impress. Leader who is always willing to collaborate with all colleagues their ideas, should communicate it able to connect with them, and we can't get it informed. Well deserved.
Thank you, everyone. And then it's okay if I
Oh, I'm
just keep
sorry.
moving?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
still trying to get online. Yep.
Okay, sorry about
We're,
the
it's
internet.
still in your, the ball's still in your court, Dr. McComas.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so we will move on. We are, last month we discussed this just impromptu, but just for the public to have our update on our middle school funding project for anyone who has not heard, although I think most people have at this point. We did something monumental. We were able to get the cost share formula adjusted for Kent County. Previously, it was 50-50, meaning of the eligible share of the project, typically the construction cost, the state would cover 50% and our local county government would cover 50%. We were able to get that moved through great efforts. I think this was really building effort year upon year upon year, and really came together this year. And the Interagency on School Construction, often referred to as the IAC, did take forward a formula change for Kent County and a number of other small school systems across the state. Our new eligible share is the state will cover 75% of eligible cost of construction and 25% then for the locals.
We can clap for that. This whole
Yeah.
thing.
Thank you. What's so significant is not just does that benefit our efforts to try to bring forward a brand new school building, replacement building for our middle grade students, but it also benefits Kent County in any construction project that they receive state funding for. So, for example, I think our library is Chestertown is seeking they need a new roof. This also benefits them. So this saves Kent County taxpayers not just for one project, but for many projects and for years to come. So that is something that I know our county elected officials have been trying to change for many years, and we were finally able to move that needle. What is unclear, today was the last day of the General Assembly. Last year, the General Assembly, we had many parents and testimonials of why we needed extra funding to support a new middle school building. Because the formula was still 50-50, last year the General Assembly heard our pleas and they pre-authorized an additional $8 million towards the project. Now that was because the formula was 50-50. Now that the formula has changed, it's unclear, and we'll go back and see if anything exciting happened today, because last year that pre-authorization came on the very last day of the assembly. So we'll see what happened today, but that's unclear. I think that we are not likely to get it because the formula was adjusted, but I remain hopeful, and we'll dig in and see if there was anything that happened today on the last day.
Plus, didn't we get the 5% bump up? One of them? the
We did.
5%?
So it's up there. So
Okay.
we previously had 2 additional 5% additionally funded things from the state. One was for our maintenance. We did just recently learn that we no longer are eligible for that 5% incentive. But we still are maintaining the other 5% bump up, or it's not really an incentive, but a bump up because of our overall level of economic poverty. So we still have that. So that is the most current update. Where we are now is we'll dig in to see if there was anything that happened in the General Assembly today that would benefit our project. And then we're working with the IAC and the Stadium Authority, who serves as our project manager, to identify the cost per year of the project and how much each year would the state and the county would need to put forward for each year of the project. And I think, Mr. Kirby, is there anything I'm missing? Okay, so that really gives everybody the sort of in the moment update. Yes, ma'am.
And how much do we stand to lose of what we gained if we don't come to a decision?
Right. Yeah. So, as Ms. Dorsey was pointing out, that, time is of the essence because we know inflation, the longer the project is deferred, we know that there is inflation in the project. So we look forward to working with our county commissioners around hopefully moving our project forward sooner rather than later.
And just regarding the maintenance incentive, I was wondering if you could discuss how you're ensuring that future incentives won't be missed out on.
So one of the main reasons that we missed out on that incentive is we were in the process of changing over our work order computer system. And so that's the CMMS you may hear people refer to. So one, that is fully operational now, and we've worked through all the kinks on that. I have met with our Director of Maintenance as well as Mr. Kirby, our Director of Finance. And we have put additional procedures of monitoring things in place. There are some parts to why we lost that are difficult. I mean, some of that is the roof on the current middle school building. It has been patched and patched and patched and patched. And so that is something that also marked us down. But we know that that's the whole point. The IAC has identified that this building it's not financially worth repairing the building. It's more cost effective to build a replacement building. So the roof is a prime example, and the roof did go into a part of that. So it was a combination of things. But so we have looked at our procedures, and I have personally reviewed the report and dug in with my team on exactly where we are with all of that. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll just add that next Tuesday afternoon at 3 o'clock, a week from
Yes.
tomorrow, Dr. McComas and whoever from the board is able to go will probably just be listening. Dr. McComas will probably be doing the talking, and Mr. Kirby, I guess. The commissioners have asked for just an update, and this will be well, you did talk to him. I was there in the meeting a couple weeks ago, but maybe we'll know for sure next Tuesday whether we did get any sort of last minute life preserver thrown our way, and just the biggest thing is where we go from here. We know what the numbers are. Now we really need to hear really from the county what they're able to or willing to give to us.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's next Tuesday.
At 3 o'clock.
Yeah, 3 o'clock is the
Correct.
commissioner's budget
Yeah.
work session next
Yeah.
week that we've been
Yeah, they're in the
invited to.
process of meeting with department heads and all that. They've been doing it for a couple of weeks now.
This meeting for the middle school, is that what this is next Tuesday?
Just that part at 3 o'clock.
Well,
But it's not a Board of Education and Commissioners collective meeting.
Yeah.
They're having their regular budget discussions, and
and they invited us because they'd like to talk about the school budget and
Yeah.
the middle school
yeah,
project.
yeah.
So it's just part of their normal meeting next week.
Yeah,
that
it's
they're
not
having.
like last
It's not
July
a special
15th where
meeting.
we actually collectively met together at the middle school. This is really their meeting with Dr. McComas, and probably will just be support there for her. I don't know that we'll say anything, but anyhow, she's just, don't take this the wrong way. You're just an agenda item on their agenda.
I'm
you know?
okay just being
Yeah,
an
yeah,
agenda
you're just
item.
an item on the agenda next
Yes.
week.
I'd
Okay.
just like to say one thing. We need to get this passed. Okay? If we don't get it done now, it's not going to happen. I mean, there's going to be new commissioners coming in.
It may.
There's going to be a new school board, and I don't want to see you guys have to start over again. It's not, you've spent so much time. We need to get this through. And I think we've done all of our homework, and all the naysayers, they don't even know the work we've done. So that's all I want to say. Let's get it done.
Thank you,
agree,
Mr.
Frank.
Rhodes.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone. And thank you it's been a long journey. I know as a school system, we've been on this for almost 10 years now, to your point, Mr. Rhodes. So
Definitely been at least 10.
it's been a long time. So if we could move on, our next agenda item here is our I'm presenting a proposed budget to our Board of Education for the FY27. And I have my clicker. Okay, so welcome to this evening's budget. This year's budget, as you know, we're in a very different situation than we were 12 months ago, I'm pleased to say. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Mr. Ford. And as you know, I always anchor this because I respect that our board wants to use our tax dollars very wisely to advance our achievement. And so I always like to anchor our conversations. And of course, we want to use those dollars wisely and make sure that our students are having an excellent education that serves them not just now, but for their whole life, both personally and professionally. And so the first thing we're going to do is just touch base on our priorities, just as a quick reminder to anchor our thinking tonight, go over our revenues and constraints, and then our proposed budget. So what are our priorities? As we said last time, and we'll continue to identify, our students are of course our number one priorities. So who are our students? So here are the demographics of our students, and they're very similar to what we were a year ago. Numbers are slightly different here and there, but nothing too dramatically different. And of course, we also know students have lots of different unique learning needs. And so we have our demographics broken out by students who receive services. Those services may be related to a learning challenge. They may be related to a behavioral challenge. They may be related to a language difference. So lots of students receive support services. And of course, we have to look at our achievement because that is our core mission here. And this is our data over the last 3 years of state testing, data that you have here for literacy. And we see, I always kind of indicate the students who entered school after the pandemic because their educational journey has been not disrupted like those groups of students before them. And here's what our student achievement in literacy looks like by different student demographics, whether it's students with disabilities, African American, Hispanic, white, economically disadvantaged students with disabilities. I do not have our Asian student population shown because our student number of Asian students are so small that we have to cap the privacy, like when the sample population is so tiny. And then you see the same in terms of our data for mathematics by grade level and of course by student group here. So all this data is available publicly on the Maryland Report Card website, and anyone who is deeply interested can go on the website and examine the data in lots of different ways. So we know as a school system that we set forward on a strategic plan this year, and that our fundamental backbone of that strategic plan is that if we invest robustly in literacy and math instruction applied in a STEAM experience, then our students will be prepared competitively for the 21st century careers that will be available to them.
Can you let us know what STEAM stand for again?
Yes,
please?
sir. Yes, STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. And so this idea that as students move through and develop foundational literacy and math skills and knowledge, that they then, as they get into high school, middle school, high school, they begin entering these sort of more customized pathways of their interest, right? So you may have students who are moving in an engineering pathway, students who are musicians. I appreciate we have a family community member advocating for the arts program. So we want to help students find their pathway that matches their talents and aspirations. And so, of course, we said, number one, we need to focus on superior performance academically. And this is where we talk about investing in reading and mathematics. And of course, we recognize, if you look at our data, we know our middle grades are where our achievement really bellies out a little bit, and I shouldn't say a little bit, but that's our most critical need. And so we recognize that prioritizing our middle school as a cornerstone of our strategic plan is critical to serving our students well. Our elementary data is strong and continues to get stronger. We see a pickup in the high school grades as students enter those courses and pathways that they choose themselves and are relevant to where they want to go in life. And we see the middle grades is where we really need to invest and strengthen. So we're looking at investing and doing that through really supporting instruction and a strategic approach, expanding after school activities and wraparound resources for students.
Question for
Yes.
the on your chart for community school resources. Can
Yes.
you expand on what youth development programming is, or give an example?
Yes. So we're fortunate, our middle school, of course, we partner with Minaries Dream Alliance. They've had a youth development program, after-school programming there for a number of years. This year, we brought on Boys and Girls Club through the consortium grant to begin building out even more after-school resources and a menu of supports for students so that in those middle years, students are, in some instances, or in many instances in middle school, they're old enough to kind of go home and not be supervised, but we know unsupervised young people is not really in their best interest. So we're looking to build out activities, athletics. I think we have a chess club. I think we have a book club and
They did
athletics.
well, they did culinary arts, cosmetology, and something else. I was just
Yeah.
talking to Ms. Copper about it last week.
Yeah, so we are really trying to enhance the enrichment opportunities for our middle grade students. If not during the school day, definitely during the after school. I just want to do a shout out. We applied for a grant to be able to fund transportation for our middle school students after school. We've had limited transportation, and this will round it out. And that's a grant through the local management board that we were able to get. And we're just at the beginning of trying to build these things out, but we've expanded quite a bit this year. That expansion's had some rocky starts. The enrollment system that was used was not up and running as well as we anticipated it to be this year. So that was a little bit of a rocky implementation start for our Boys and Girls Club, but we're moving along. Okay, so just now that we've looked at, of course, our priorities, our data, and our strategic plan, what are we looking at here? So you can see here our total revenue. So all the money coming into the school system this year, and you see it broken down by the different funding streams per the blueprint legislation. And you'll notice that comes out to be $34.7 million. You'll see that we have to deduct the concentration of poverty funds. They are funds that are, you'll notice it says restricted in use. So it flows into the operating budget, but we can only use those funds for very specific purposes. These are the funds that go to our community schools programs, and they have to be used for that and only that. Now, within community schools programming, there's good versatility of how they can use it, and I'm grateful that the legislators continue to sort of increase the flexibility around concentration of poverty funds. So we'll continue to see how that evolves over time. So we back that $2.1 million out, and that leaves us $32.5 million to operate the school system. So expenditures. So when we look, our most important asset are our people. We are a people profession, and our teachers and bus drivers and cafeteria workers, like everyone matters. And to fund those positions for next year, it's going to cost us, is that 28.2? Am I looking? Say again? 26, sorry. My glasses are not that good that far away. So 26 million we take out of the total revenue. Mr. Kirby and I went through and looked at all the non-personnel expenditures. As everyone may recall, last year I zero-based the budget, so I took everything back down to zero, and I looked at what had been the 3-year actual spend, and then I allocated our budget based on that. Mr. Kirby and I went through and we looked at everything and did some recalibration. We didn't have to do it because some of our reallocations on that zero basing were pretty accurate. There was a little bit of adjustments that we made this year. And so for the things, the non-people, it's going to cost us $6.6 million to operate the school system. And so if you look at this balanced budget overview, you take our total revenue and take out how much it will cost to pay our people. And we take out how much it costs for the other things. And again, you'll see up there that Mr. Kirby and I thoughtfully combed through and looked at where our zero basing needed to be a little calibrated again, and where we could maybe trim to make sure that, for example, you have increasing cost of fuel, we might reallocate things. And then that left us that we still needed about 359,000 to balance out the budget. And so we were fortunate that in our fund balance, we had 871. Thank you, 871. Thank you, Mr. Kirby. And so I would propose to the board that we use 359 of that unassigned fund balance to put towards the budget, and that would provide us with a balanced budget. So that's the overview of what I'm proposing. So what do we get with that money, right? So how does this address all those requests that we looked at the last time we were together? So for Galena Elementary, in this budget, I'm able to preserve the lead teacher that's currently funded through a grant that is going away. Our lead teacher will serve as our instructional coaching support, as she has been doing, and is really valued by our faculty members in that school. Preserving one instructional assistant that, again, was previously on that reduction list from last year, closing that deficit. If anyone who's listening recalls, we were able to preserve a number of positions for this school year through the generosity of both the board and our county commissioners. And I'm happy to say that this year a good number of those positions were able to continue to preserve. Some we won't be because of attrition, like they did move on to other jobs. We'll also, for Galena, be able to preserve their social worker that's moving off of a grant and onto our operating budget. A teacher specialist using a reallocation of a central office position. So I'll be reducing central office in order to provide a teacher specialist to Galena so that all three of our elementary schools have that same resource to support instruction.
Can you just remind me, if not everybody, what exactly is a teacher specialist?
So a teacher specialist would be equivalent to an assistant principal at the
Okay,
elementary
right,
level.
yeah.
And it's really building that bench of leadership so that the principal can lean into instruction more. And it also helps us train that next generation of principals.
I'm looking at Ms. Giacomowitz when I say this. It dawned on me at our budget hearing. In a previous life, it was called a helping teacher, right? And that was sort of the pathway to get you into admin. So, okay, I got you.
Yep. So thanks for the
Yeah.
asking. And then I know Galena had requested some audio visual and furniture for their library. So we'll keep our eye out on where we can find some funds to support those needs. So I'm not calculating that in this budget, but we have that on our side burner and we'll continue to seek resources for that as they emerge. For Garnet.
So just
yes.
to, so.
Go back.
No, I'm
Okay.
just, before we move on, preserving 3 positions, and would it be accurate to say, I mean, I know you're reallocating funding, but for Galena's purposes, you're adding a staff? I mean, when the teacher
Yes,
specialist, is
the
that
teacher
considered an
specialist will be
addition?
new to them.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha,
Mhm.
okay. That's all, sorry.
Yes, no, that's okay. Good question. And Garnett Elementary, we will be preserving or restoring 2 of the instructional assistant positions that were on that reduction list from last year. We'll be preserving the social worker. And then they have requested an additional teacher because of a good problem, which is growing, will it be first grade next year? It's a large kindergarten class that we have.
Yeah, they've got 2 kindergartners of 27 students each.
Yes, I anticipate we will be able to meet their requests, but I need to monitor just a little bit longer. So we'll keep our eye on that. And this is a typical strategy that we've used here in the school system in the past. So
And aren't elementary schools enrollment sort of notoriously fluid? I mean, and I know, I guess it happens everywhere, but we get elementary school kids after the school year started, you know? They flood in right before the day it's supposed to start or something like that.
it is
Yeah.
true. The earlier grades, especially when children or families are just enrolling their children in the school system, they're not always accustomed to like the rhythm of when to do it. So it's not uncommon at all for elementary schools to have an influx of enrollment the week leading up to the start of school and even a week or 2 afterwards as people are
I
you know,
think I
coming
remember
into the
talking
school
to a
year.
parent one year, and I think they thought that it was just automatic. Oh, I have a 4-year-old, so they're going to school. Doesn't everybody know they're coming to school? Yeah.
Right, right. So, you know, that's part of why this is a normal strategy
Yeah.
to continue to monitor.
Question for,
Yes.
Garnett before we move on. Can you speak to how you were able to restore, the 2 positions that were reduced last year?
Yes, so if you look at what our overall revenue is this year compared to last year, we have more funds to run the school system this year. Part of that is a function of the blueprint legislation. You may recall last year, our commissioners often in talking about, you know, thinking about our budget, not just in last year, but also in out years of the blueprint, would talk about, well, they knew they needed to set aside additional money for the school system for this year. They were originally projecting that they would need to budget an additional $2 million for the school system. In fact, it turned out to be less. It was 1.1 that they needed to provide us this year. We had a conversation when we were last at the commissioners. Mr. Fithian was asking, like, well, why is there a difference? That difference is because last legislative cycle, the General Assembly put a pause on one element of the blueprint. That was the collaborative planning funding, and they deferred that to the FY28 budget. That's why it was less money. Compared to what they were originally anticipating they have to give us. But nevertheless, we still have more funds than we had the previous year. So with those additional funds, we're looking very wisely at how do we didn't really want to lose those positions in the first place, but our deficit put us in that tenuous situation. And so now that we have reliable operating funds, we're able to recover those.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So Rock Hall will be able to preserve social work services there. So I just want to say that will be provided through a split allocation with a central office position that's coming off of a grant that can provide those services. We went all year with a vacant social worker positions because it is difficult to find certified social workers. So this is again sort of a reallocation of resources that we have. They have requested an additional teacher. We will use the same strategy as we are using with Garnett, which is we're going to monitor their enrollment. I feel confident that we'll be able to support them, but just in this moment, I can't commit to that, and I want to see where the enrollment goes.
I asked this at the budget workshop, and I'll ask again because honestly, I don't remember the answer. Where are we in terms of maybe introducing a 3-year-old program at Galena and Rock Hall?
Thank you for asking a question. So we have applied for the
Because
MS.
there's spaces in those 2 schools, right? We
Yes.
wouldn't have to outsource
Yeah, we
it,
don't
right?
have to go
Okay.
to a different location.
Okay.
So we have applied for the Maryland Early Childhood 3-year-old pre-K expansion grant. That is the grant that we received this year for Garnett that allowed us to expand there. We've applied for the same grant for both Galena and Rock Hall Elementary for next year. We will not know if we get those grants until sometime in May.
Okay. But I mean,
I'm
plenty of
hopeful,
time
but
to let the public, if indeed we end up having it, plenty of time to let the public know, right?
yes, yes.
If the Presbyterian Church hadn't been able to accommodate us, you know, we got the grant, would we not have been able to do the Garnett thing?
I don't think we would have had the space to do
Well,
it.
I don't think we would have
Yeah.
either.
So
I
that
just-
was one
yeah.
of our big barriers,
Okay.
and we were fortunate to get the grant. And now it's self-sustaining, right? Because those
Right.
students are part of our enrollment count.
Okay, I got you.
Yes.
A question that I had was based on just what Ms. Tustin shared, her concerns about music. Because I remember last year during the budget, I felt like that music piece was given priority.
It was, right?
And so was it just, were we not able to find?
Yes.
Okay, and that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, I know that we made a space for more support. So you
Yes.
could talk to that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it because I was thinking the same thing. We did last year expand the resources for the arts program, we ran into a challenge of finding certified full-time people. That's kind of that function of the nationwide shortage. And so, yes, we have not reduced that. We are looking to continue. The principals felt grateful that they were able to find the long-term subs that they have to support the program, but it is an ongoing challenge to find the arts teachers that, for music in particular.
Yeah, I was thinking when Miss Tussing was talking, because I thought I remembered from our budget workshop 2 weeks ago, I even talked about being able to free up the music teacher at the high school so that they only had to do
Right.
that, so they weren't
Traveling
traveling
all over
and,
town.
because
Right.
that, it seems like what happens after 2:30 almost amounts to an entire second job
It is,
for that
it is.
person.
To be a high school band
Yeah.
teacher is a tremendous commitment of time and energy, and we're fortunate that, you know, we have a teacher who goes above and beyond all the time for our
Because I think
students.
there was some good old social media, but I think there was some misrepresentation last year on social media that we were actually cutting our support to fine arts, and that was not the case. And it's still not in terms of our commitment.
Correct.
I just sort of want to have that said again so people
Right.
don't,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
sometimes rumors,
Yeah.
Good
Right, yeah, there
rumors
was a
have
mis-
legs
yeah.
and they get going and it's
Yeah.
not true.
Yeah,
So,
it was
okay.
an assumption last year, and I appreciate all those who helped us clarify that. Arts are a priority. And I think they're very important. And for some students, arts are the thing that really, just like for some students, athletics is the thing that gets them through every day. Arts is the same, right? And for another child, it might be engineering. But I mean, the point is, it's not a nice to have, it is a must have. And I appreciate the advocacy for the program, and I appreciate the opportunity to clarify it is a priority for us. It is not something that we think isn't important and we're trimming away. Our challenge is finding qualified people. Right. So, but we'll continue down that. And I hope to get to the point where we can continue to even expand more with our arts program.
It's a simple question. Is that one of the positions that's hard to find across the state right now?
There's that, I will tell you, foreign language teachers are really hard to find. You really have to, most school systems are recruiting in Puerto Rico and out of the country for foreign language teachers. That's how difficult it is to find those teachers, and let alone your normal math teachers as well, right? And special educators. So the teacher shortage is a real challenge. Okay, so I'll move on. So our middle school, as we know, our middle school is a cornerstone of our strategic plan. And so we're investing, of course, there, as we are with all our schools. But you'll see here we're preserving the lead teacher that is currently funded on a grant, and we'll be moving that to the operating budget. And that will be our instructional support coach. And they'll be working with our central math and literacy leaders. Preserving our social worker there as well. That was a position that we had in place funded this year, but we couldn't fill it. We had difficulty finding an additional certified social worker. So, but we will be preserving that in the budget and we're looking at how we're reallocating the resources that we do have. One additional teacher, I'll leave it to the principal and HR to work through. Will that position go towards a unified arts? They really could benefit from an additional gym teacher. And then the principal would also had also asked for an additional content teacher. So I wasn't able to give them both, but I can give him one, and then he and his team can decide where it's the best use of that for next year. We are reallocating a 12-month secretary to address the summer support requests from the administration, and we have built into the budget the extra pay for extra duty to provide one after-school coordinator to serve as the administrator on duty as we're expanding these after-school programs, because currently our principal's dedicated, and he will stay at that school. He'll work 12, 14-hour days, day after day after day, to ensure that the children have adequate administrative support and supervision. So this will bring some relief and allow our administration to, be their best every single day by providing this support.
What do you mean by, and maybe it's common sense and I don't have any tonight, but what do you mean when you said, I'm looking at the summer support request, reallocation of the 12-month secretary. I remember the discussion about needing someone to do that. So what does reallocation look like?
So we have a retirement situation, and we also have a 12-month position that we can move. We can take the 10-month position.
Oh, no, are
pull
you
that
talking
back
about
and-
a 10-month secretary? When you say
There was a 10-month secretary there, and that was what the principal's request was.
to make
I
them a
need-
12-month, that
Yes,
part I got,
right.
yeah.
But in the process, there's also a retirement, and
Okay.
so we're going to be able to reallocate. So rather than converting a 10-month to a 12-month, I
Okay.
can take a 12-month that I had somewhere else and move there.
Move one 12-month from one place to make a
Yeah, I was going
12-month?
to say, Mr. Hessian,
Yeah.
if you'd like to clarify,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Earlier this year, we had some personnel movement and some additional positions that were hired due to folks who were out on like leave. And this is essentially through attrition rebalancing what our school secretary FTE count was. So
Okay.
we were actually +1 by January of this year compared to last year. This will.
So that +1's going to go to the middle school? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, and-
Okay,
A +1. Who the +1 is
okay,
a personnel.
yeah, oh, no, I got you. So let's say we have 13. One of those 13 is going to the middle school, correct? Gotcha, okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Hessian, for helping to.
Let me ask this question, 'cause one of my concerns still is those transition grades in middle school, that's 6th through 8th. Explain to me how these positions here are going to help in 6th and 8th grade
Sure.
with a literacy in math. It's kind of, I would say, one of the downfalls of our school system,
Yeah.
not to be too negative.
No. Well, the lead teacher's job is to do instructional coaching. And so they will be the person in the building working every day with our literacy and math teachers around instruction, around planning to the rigor of the standard, around analyzing student work samples, around monitoring the unit data in literacy and mathematics. And so that is our number one instructional coach job there. And in fact, just this morning, I was meeting with the principal and assistant principal discussing how this position needs to be used as we move forward. This was the first year they had it, and so they were learning how to leverage the position, and then next year we'd be able to make that even stronger. Social worker, we know if students are struggling with, if they have therapeutic needs or social emotional challenges, the way the brain is designed, the amygdala stops the higher brain from thinking around academics when they've got other needs that they're upset about, right? Yeah. And so it's important to have those social emotional wraparound supports so that our students can focus on academics. And so this has been one of our challenges this year, is to really find an additional social worker, but nevertheless, it's important and we need to keep that. And then the additional unified arts, that really, our principal has prioritized reading and math and the core content areas. So those class sizes are smaller right now. I mean, they're not as small as they were previously when they were like 8 students, but they are, more typical class sizes you would see in other school systems. But the sort of, if you think about it as like a balloon, if you're squeezing here to make it small, something else is getting bigger. Well, our gym classes are larger, right? Yes. So this unified arts teacher, if that's how the principal chooses to use it, allows them to continue to focus on those literacy and math classes being more reasonable, and then takes the pressure off the unified arts. If the principal chooses to use that position towards literacy or math, of course, it would reduce those sizes.
versatility with that position to kind of help where help is needed.
Right. I think that it's best for the principal to determine the best use, because as you're building your schedule each year, because that really needs to be re-examined year upon year, because enrollment fluctuates.
Yeah.
He and his team will make a better decision than me from afar. So for our high school, so we will be preserving one of the instructional assistants at the CAP program. One additional special education teacher they'll get. This will be a new one, an additional one to what they have. They did request 2. At this time, I'm only able to support 1. But again, we'll continue to monitor our enrollment and data. They've requested an additional science teacher, and they'll have, the budget includes that. The principal will determine the best biology or chemistry. I know they need both, but at least if we can get one for next year, maybe the following year we can get the other one in. And 1 physical education teacher through a reallocation of positions. We will also be preserving their lead teacher, again, to help with instructional coaching at the secondary level. Also be preserving their social worker, and then funding new science textbooks. To me, the textbooks will correspond where they choose the teacher, right? So if they're bringing in a new teacher, let's get fresh materials to make sure that they have what they need.
I got a question.
Yep.
In general, although it jumped out at me at this, so we've got a number of grants that are sunsetting, and we somehow are, and I know that's the downside of a grant. Ultimately, when the grant's over and we've gotten used to having it in our system, then we have to find a way to continue to fund it.
Yeah.
And I know we have a grant specialist, or that's their job. So while we've got grants sunsetting and we've been able to find other monies to fund the positions, are we still looking for grants to, or do we not want to rely on grants?
Well, I think we're always looking for grants because we
Okay.
can always use additional resources. I think what we
I know, I
need-
just don't want to
Yeah.
get caught like we did last year with $15 million in COVID grants, and then when they were over, we were in a bind.
Yeah.
There are now grants out there that are not necessarily personnel tied, but the accounting aspects
Mhm.
are still there, like this Grow Your Own grant.
Okay.
We joined hold of ESMEC with, right? That's not really gonna fund positions, it's gonna fund putting people through school.
Yeah.
So that back side of the house with, getting the bills paid, all that, that's where that grant specialist will support that. But
Well, I mean, I know that the lion's share of a budget is personnel related. I get that. And it seems like so far, everything you've been talking about has been personnel related, but that's not the only part of a school system budget. So I just kind of wondered further down, is there some discussion about what we're going to use the rest of the little bit of money we have left for?
Oh, well, I can go back and talk about the non-personnel
No,
and all the things,
that-
right?
That's fine. I'm just
Right.
saying that I know it's not all personnel, and that's what we
Right.
seem to be focused on, which I know we should be, but the last thing you want is to not have heeded the fact that we need a new boiler or
Sure.
or new refrigerator and stuff like that. So
Right.
we do have somewhere in our budget for those kinds of things too, right?
We do. Again, what I'm doing on these slides, just to frame it, is I'm addressing the request.
Okay.
Right, so they requested these things, I'm identifying, can we do it
Yeah,
or
I know
not?
last
Right.
month we went, or 2 weeks ago, we went over what the requests were.
Right.
Okay.
Right, so that's how I've kind of structured
Okay.
this presentation. So getting on to those system-wide supports, for special education, we're able to provide the school psychologist that was requested and additional speech language pathologist. I just will also say these are challenging positions to find people who have the credentials. Student services, I know I've already said this, but the social workers really fall under that larger umbrella of what student services provides to students. Teaching and learning, the music curriculum will move from Title IV grant onto the operating budget. Title IV is a federal grant that can be used as a supplement, but this curriculum has become our standard curriculum for the music program as we're trying to work on growing the program and strengthening the program. So it has to move off of that. new high school science textbooks we mentioned, and then the instructional coaching. As we said, our primary model will be using lead teachers in the 3 schools that we have them, and those 3 schools are Galena, the middle school, and the high school. The other 2 elementary schools, we have our teacher specialists are working hand in hand with our principals. The schools that have the lead teachers, if you look at the data, you'll see why they're where they are. I eventually would like to, over a couple of years, expand lead teachers so that we have at least 1 for each of the buildings, and then continue to work on the expertise related to math and literacy. For transportation, to your point, Ms. McGee, 1 bus was requested by our Department of Transportation. I'd like to revisit that in October once we have worked through all the recodes, and we can see what the FY26 fund balance is looking like. It might be a good time at that point to revisit that request. And just to give everybody an idea, Mr. Kirby, what's the ballpark cost of a bus that we were looking at? Because yeah.
And how many years will we get out of that used bus? What do you get, 15 years out of a bus? Yeah.
So I think, you know, we just need to revisit that request in a few months, and we may be able to address that. IT, the increase of the cost of our devices, and so that is cooked in because that's part of everyday business, the things, if you will. Maintenance, we are looking to restore and preserve 3 custodial positions that were on the reduction list from last year's deficit. And then last year, this was a request that came up, but in light of last year's huge deficit, I deferred the request to this year. This is the only thing that I'm asking the county, I'm seeking additional support from the county on, is funding for updating the temperature control systems for 2 of our buildings, Garnett Elementary and Kent County High School, to conserve energy and avoid the cost of heating and cooling the building when people are not in use.
And that would be a one-time request.
That's a one-time request.
Do we have a number for that or a ballpark figure yet?
Yes. 280,000. Yes, sir.
I have a question. So would you explain the preserving part? Are those people that we laid off last year?
They were people on that list that if we didn't have more funding, their job would be gone this year. Now, we were able to, there were a few people who retired last year, and we did not fill those positions. There was one that we were able to, we had to kind of bring back and fill.
Wasn't that the custodian at Garnett?
Yes, because of the expansion of the 3-year-old program to a
Yeah.
different location. So these were on that list that, remember, we gave them notice that you have 12 months left.
So the question I have is, last year we had this reduction list from the deficit contingency. We let some teachers go, or we didn't renew their contracts.
It wasn't teachers.
Now,
No teachers were
But
affected.
they weren't let go, but they were.
Yeah.
What's that?
We didn't replace the position, but no one lost their job. It was pulled through attrition.
Okay, attrition. Okay, I get it. So it looks to me like this preserving part. Okay, first of all, it's like you have a credit card and you go to the bank and you want to pay off your credit card loan and you borrow a bunch of money and you pay it off. And then next year or the next month you get your credit card statement and you don't owe any money, so then you start spending. Are we spending now since last year you did all these cuts? Because it looks like you want all these new teachers. And for example, the funding for this temperature control, I think we should pay for it with our own money, because you know what our prize is? We want to get the middle school. I don't think we need to come up with any of this stuff.
Well,
We want our new school. And if we go to the, I'm just thinking, if we go to the commissioners with all these requests, let's just go for the main thing that we want this year. You can come up with all this next year.
so Mr. Words, let me clarify. There's only one thing I'm asking from the commissioners. One thing, and that's the temperature control. All the rest of that is incorporated into the budget that we have. So that's the only new thing. That's the only thing that I would be asking.
But it looks like you're looking for new teachers also, correct?
No, what I'm doing is making the most of the funds that we have, right, addressing the needs. Because again, by the blueprint, the county funds us a certain way, and with the funds that we have, I'm able to do these things. So the only thing that I would be asking the commissioners for above what they're required to give us by law would be the temperature control system.
But to Mr. Rhodes's point though, given the fact that I understand, there's contingency fund and, since it's a board discussion, I'm not as, beholden to this notion of keeping this money for emergency purposes. And so I think there's reasons where we could potentially be more flexible as a means of trying to be halfway. I don't think it's a bad idea to consider that.
Okay.
Um,
If the
so-
board would like me, rather than requesting that from the county, would like me to use contingency funds for that, I can do that. We just have
So-
to agree that that would be
Yeah,
used.
So I've got a question, and I think maybe this is what Mr. Rhodes is thinking, and so I'll ask you if it's true. There might be this perception that for any money that we don't ask the commissioners for, that we find a way to pay ourselves, they'll give that, like the $280,000, they'll put that in the pot for the middle school. That's
I
not a
can't-
gift.
I
That's
can't
not what I'm
guarantee.
trying to
Okay,
say. I
okay.
just don't want to go asking them for more money.
We're not asking them for
Well,
anything, they're,
Look, we just need to get the middle school. That's all we want to focus on. I know.
Mr. Rhodes, I understand, I just want to say, I understand your point of, we have to be
That the middle
clear
school's
on
the
our
priority.
priorities,
Yeah, the
right?
middle school's the
I
priority.
agree. And, this would be the only thing, and if the board would rather us use our contingency funds for this, then I can do that. Or if the board would prefer me to defer this till next year, I mean, I think there are options. Yes, Ms.
I
Dorsey?
thought we were reserving that to help out with our teachers.
Of the,
Special, the support staff and different things like that. We do have needs in the school because we need to see results for our students. I mean, it's putting them first as well. 'Cause,
yes,
excuse me,
no,
if
you're
we're
fine.
limited,
Right.
then we limit our students.
Right, I understand what you're saying. So just for the community who may be watching, our fund balance from FY '25, we had 871,000. 500,000 of the 871
Went back into
the assigned
The piggy bank,
contingency
yeah.
fund, which is restricted. I, as a superintendent, can't use it without the board's permission. That left 371 in the unassigned balance. If you look back to my balanced budget slide here, you will see that I propose that we use $359,355.63 of that unassigned. That would leave us 11,644 in the unassigned. That's where, for example, I might try to get I think Galena needed projection. Yeah. Well, that's 11,000 is enough to buy things with, not enough to buy personnel. It's not enough for a position. But I think what Ms. McKenzie was saying is perhaps we consider using some of that 500. And I think Ms. Dorsey was saying, well, let's make sure that we have that money for our instructional purposes first. And I know Mr. Rhodes wants to be clear that what we go to the commissioners with is really our most critical priority. And so, again, this is where, as a board, the budget is a function of the board.
So the one other question, in the last meeting, you were going to figure out what, if we put those systems in, how much will it save us a year? Approximately, what kind of money? If
Oh, you mean the heating systems?
the heating systems for the year, is it
Yeah.
$10,000 a year? or is it-
Yeah, so I'm going to ask if Mr. Kirby could attempt to answer that, because that's one of those difficult questions, because right now we know what our bills are right now. To know what they would be if those things were already in place, so it's difficult to project.
Yeah, it's tough to have a clear answer in terms of what that monthly savings is going to be. I will say from our lighting projects that we've done, which was similar style projects, it saved us anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 building so far in the last year. Did a big LED lighting upgrade. So, I mean, spread that across 5 schools, about $100,000 just from.
You're talking about 2 schools, we're talking about 2 schools for this though, aren't we?
Right.
So
So trying to give just an overall idea
Example.
Of the savings.
I get it. So at the maximum, we would be spending, if we didn't put the system in, we could possibly spend $40,000 for a year. So if we wait 1 year, we'd have to spend $40,000 and maybe we can do it next year. That's all I'm saying.
And I'm not upset at all, Mr. Rhodes. I understand your point. The question is when do we request the support around the temperature control, or do we use our contingency funds? And as the board determines is what we will do.
Well, I mean, because you haven't gotten to the last page yet. So some of the things I see, I'll let you finish and then we can build on the whole
Okay.
conversation.
Well-
'Cause we're just 2 slides away.
Yeah.
But the one I want everyone to see is the zero balance. The budget is balanced. We're not in deficit. Last year, we went to them for about 1.9. What we go to them for, the request?
I don't even remember. I think I blocked it.
But we went to them.
In the
to
end,
ask for-
300,000
Yeah.
because we used our
Yeah,
500.
we had 500, yeah,
and
yeah.
we
And
asked them
when
for
we talked
300.
about that, we talked about using the 500,000 for
Well-
emergency-based things. At some point, first of all, we're waiting for them to give us a new middle school. So we're still waiting for that. At some point, our county commissioners have to be the big brothers and stewards of our county and put into public education. If we're doing all we can with the bare minimum and coming up with a zero deficit, I don't think the one item we're asking for at $280,000 to save us money and bring our heating and AC into the 21st century from the 1950s is a bad request. I don't think we need to go and use our money to kind of supplement what I think the county should step in and do, to be honest.
I disagree.
Well, if they say, if they say no, I don't have a problem with, last year you and I voted against liquidating the 500,000. My faith was restored when we not only recouped that 500,000, but don't get crazy on me.
All right.
But that was just last year, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Because we also got $300,000 more. So I feel a little more secure that, we can, especially if we can count on, $40,000 or $80,000 savings, in 1 year, and then you multiply that every year. I don't have a problem spending our own. I don't have a problem asking for it. They can always say no. And if they say no, there's Plan B. If we decided something that we have to have this year, or we can sit on the 500,000 that's sitting there. I do remember the last year with the fund balance, it was a 2-part thing. We had to say, yes, we were going to spend it, and B, we had to come up with a new policy that defined what, in case of emergency, break glass looks like.
Right.
And you have the authority to tell us when we're in the emergency.
Right.
So,
I will say Aretha made a point quietly to me that at one point there was an emergency deed for, I believe, a child with special needs, something to do with a wheelchair
Yeah.
lift. And so,
And they didn't give us the money, just for the record.
right, and so then with that in mind, are those things that you keep track of, like, we know this is coming down the pike,
Right. Well,
that next year we might need something. I'm just trying to, how do we anticipate?
Right. Well, and I think like in that, that's the thing we do monitor those needs. I think in that instance, we were able to ultimately use
Did we get a
medical
grant?
assistance,
Yeah,
I think.
somebody was very innovative that found that money for us.
Right. So we do monitor those things. I mean, the contingency, I think we did, I shouldn't say I know, we put together a policy of sort of what constitutes using that.
We can't just keep running to it to try to fix every little loophole to not go to the county commissioners. In my opinion, we all have opinion, we all have a vote if it goes there, but I'm just looking at where we were last year, where how many positions we had to cut, a zero deficit, and how many positions we're adding on top of the new enrollment. I think sometimes we get into a spot where we focus on the past and the negative so much that we're not even looking at and appreciating how far we have came in just 1 year. That's my concern. We can't just keep looking at contingency fund, in order to spare the county commissioners from doing their job. I'm not saying I'm against it, but I'm just saying we've done everything we need to do to be proactive. If the middle school is our big ask, we have already asked. We're asking them to update our heating and air conditioning units to bring it up to par with what's needed to be a sustainable school system. And that's not a hard ask, or it's not something that's crazy to ask. And if their response is use your own money first, well, we did this already. So at what point are they going to do their due diligence and govern the county?
All they have to do is approve the middle school. That's
They
the
haven't
main
done it
thing.
yet,
They haven't
though.
done it
I
yet.
think
That's what we want
They
to
have
focus
10
on.
excuses
I don't
every
want to
time
have
it
any
comes on the
added,
table.
added.
I don't feel that we can ignore the whole system for just the middle school.
That's right.
I
Could I
feel-
say something? And I may be wrong, but when is it the commissioner's responsibility to keep up the buildings in Kent County? Because it's not even just the middle school. And the reason the middle school is in such pitiful shape is because it has not been kept up over the years as well. There are
Exactly.
some things that wouldn't even right now be a issue if it had been. So what I'm saying,
Agreed.
you know, for my children when they were young, you know, as they get older, you get a little tired of that even. But for my children when they were babies, when they were young, I try to make things easier on them by jumping in, doing this or doing that, and
Being
making it right.
proactive and not
But
reactive.
now, when you become grown, you have to take your rightful place and do what it is that you need to do. And I have to step back. So what I'm saying, we don't have babies as commissioners. We have grown gentlemen. Okay?
Who are
So
elected
who are
officials that have
elected
to
and being paid
oversee our school system.
and should be experienced enough to know what their duties are in Kent County.
I'm looking at the zero
That's all I'm gonna
deficit
say.
up there. We should build on that.
Well, here's what I would
You can't
offer
build
the,
it, they're always taking.
right,
No,
so here,
our
oh,
deficit, not
No,
the
I'm
county.
saying-
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
here's what
Always taking everything we get.
I'll offer everyone. You know, I've presented a budget, I've proposed a budget. And the budget is balanced. And the only thing that sits outside of that is if the request around the temperature control systems. And for the board to think about between now and May, our options with that is we could one, defer it for a year. Two, we could ask the commissioners for support on that this year. Or three, we could use our contingency if the board as a whole, you know, or votes in that way. So I'm not a superintendent telling the board what you want to do, but I think for the board to, as a whole, to think about, those are pretty much the three options with that one item. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to float two things, just sort of food for thought. Well, the first one, since you're meeting with them next week, I don't know if it's outside of the scope of your agenda item, but maybe you could just float the idea of that we have this one thing that we might need help with while you're talking about middle school stuff and see how they react, just to test the water, since you already are going to be in conversation with them anyway. Maybe that's not a good idea. I don't know.
Well, I'll just clarify. I have already put it on their radar that, you know, because they are listening to their departments and they're trying to get a sense of things, right? So they're very much in their work time right now,
Yeah.
right? So as a courtesy, I did say, just so that you know, I'm not coming with a ton of requests. The only thing I would be coming with is this one thing, you know, and I do recognize we are asking for a new building. So when they asked, you know, reached out to say, hey, can you know, come over to meet with us next week, they said, you know, budget and middle school are the
Okay.
topics. So it
So
is
they're
within
already
the
aware of
scope.
that.
I have put it on their radar as a sort of, this would be the only thing I'm looking at. And of course, that would be only if the board was agreeable to that. So, but I wanted to make sure that they knew that I wasn't asking for a ton beyond what,
Okay.
you know, we're allocated.
But you are going to talk to them about that probably next week when you go to talk?
Well, I think it will, yes, it would come up in the request, and I can let them know our board has not made a decision, right?
Yeah,
Like,
so
because
maybe we
we're
can
in our
also-
work too. We have our hearing coming up. We'll hear what the public has feedback for the
Yes.
proposal.
How long would it take to put that system in?
Typically, 2 to 3 month process. Usually it's shorter, but the high school itself is in need of an entire set. It would be a summertime project.
But it could be done like at the end of the summer, start for the fall, if we wanted to do it that way.
Potentially.
Once you find out from those
it
folks.
involves- To not get too far into the weeds with it, but it involves a lot of replacement of what's called microzones, which are up in the ceiling, so it's tough to do during the school year. It's not that it can't be done, they can do it in the evenings after school lets out, which we've done with some of the projects. So I'm not saying that it didn't happen during the school year, it's just not optimal to do it during the
It
school.
will slow it down.
So for clarification, I think I understand you to say that, you know, with, you know, central office and our 5 schools, it may sound like we're adding positions, but those positions are all within the constraints of what funding would come to us with maintenance of effort.
Yes.
The only thing that would be above maintenance effort, the only thing that you would be asking the commissioners to dig in the wallet to give us more than they have to give us is this
Would be the
280,000.
temperature control.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
And
Okay.
they have the money to do that.
Well, again, tonight I'm just proposing it, so we don't need to, you can ask questions.
Alden
Yes,
had more.
Yeah, I also just wanted to, I mean, I know this is obvious and everyone knows this, but sometimes I feel like we get a little bit in the weeds, but the commissioners might, that group of people might look very different next year. Like, this is an election year. If it doesn't go through this year, like, I don't think that's the end of it. It could, they could just decide to do it differently next year. So I just think that's,
Talking about the it, or what's the it?
like, I'm just saying that
temperature control.
Oh, just
Yeah, yeah.
this piece of equipment.
this piece of equipment,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, I
But also
gotcha.
in general, like, all this talk about how they're not helping us and they don't want to, like, that could change within the next year. So luckily we only have one thing that we're focusing on this year that may go either way. But also I just think that maybe we should, before we, take positions on how we feel about this thing, about going into our contingency or whatever, just see how the conversation with Dr. McComas goes next week, and then, come back and revisit it in May, and,
I agree, because we haven't even voted on this.
We
This is
won't
the
vote
draft.
on
Right,
this
this is-
anyhow.
yeah, I'm just
Right.
saying before
And
people
between,
polarize themselves.
well,
Yes.
no, and
I agree.
between when we will come back for a public hearing on the budget
Mhm.
is the meeting with the commissioners. So there's a meeting with the commissioners and there's a public hearing before we vote on the budget.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of time for reflection.
Just wanted to.
And this is once again, just a draft to say, hey, here's what we're doing. I think the fact, and I'll reiterate this over and over again, that we have a 0 deficit. And when you look at some of the things we're doing, we were able to put a social worker in every one of our schools. That was a problem prior to this year. You look at all of the things that are going into the high school, from the teachers in science, biology, new textbooks, all these things were needed. I think, to Alden's point, getting hung up on temperature controls, at the worst, if they say no, we spend another $40,000 going another year, and maybe the makeup of county commissioners who might be more pro-education are in position.
I think we need to look at the bigger picture too, and just the county perception and using taxpayer funds wisely. And so given that there are those that are, not that I think that we're going to win people over, but when I think about how do we present the most responsible picture of using funds, and to those who are already antagonistic to public education anyway, and are we making the most of what we have available to us? I don't know. I think the argument could be made that we're not making the most of what's available to us. And
I don't disagree with your point, but
and I'm putting it out there, just as a consider when we think about public perception matters. And again, not that I think there's going to be those who are never going to see the value in what we are supporting every single day. They just aren't. Some might though, when they realize, oh, they're really working this through. They really are trying to use everything that's available to them. It's just something to consider.
I don't disagree. Let me ask you 2 questions, Laura. Not to put you on the spot per se, anybody can chime in. Who drives that narrative about public perception, about the negativity about our school system? Is it the leaders who sit here, or is it the small crowd with the loud mouths that we have continued to let drive the narrative for the last 20 years, hence why we're begging for a new middle school? And with that, Do you think, you personally now, think this is a emergency break the glass issue for contingency?
I think for me, I'm not, again, I'm not sold on the idea of keeping 500,000 as contingency. I'm just not sold on that idea in general.
Understood?
So I think that's where I, again, not being beholden to that notion of we need to keep this egg to the side, this little nest egg. I think you have talked about in other school systems that you worked with that they didn't have necessarily such a thing. It was always a part of the budget. And so
Right.
you know.
To that, I don't disagree, but we're a small school system. And if I'm going to go into the contingency fund, it would be for teachers. It would be for positions. It wouldn't be for maintenance. It wouldn't be for equipment. It would be for personnel, which is our biggest slice of the pie, and providing jobs to the economy, to our school system that benefits the overall moving forward of the entire community. That person that we use contingency, hypothetically, use contingency money on is now educating hundreds of kids, and those hundreds of kids has a chance to be this in life will move forward. Sitting here, once again, to Alden point, talking about a light switch that the county commissioners have about $13 million just sitting around trying to figure out what to do with, asking for something that's less than or around $250,000, I don't think that's a big ask. And they have to be proactive in same way with perception. What's the perception of them? The perception about our county commissioners right now, I will leave John Price, Commissioner Price, out of this because he has publicly constantly advocated, but as a whole, their perception is they're no to public education. That's their perception. And that burden of perception that's on them has started to affect how we govern.
Are you saying they're
May-
no to public education? Did
may
you
I?
say that?
Yes.
I don't believe that.
We don't have a new middle school, Frank.
But I don't believe
May I?
they're.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
You're wrong in saying that.
Hey, guys.
They believe in our
Frank,
education.
guys,
No, you
guys.
said it.
And I'll say it again.
No, they're
I
not,
don't
they're for
believe
our
all-
education.
I
I
don't
know all
believe
those guys.
Hey,
I
let's,
can't believe you just said that.
I will believe it. I don't.
I
believe all
can't
three.
believe you just said
I
that.
don't
Guys-
I don't want to hear more about it.
guys, do me a favor. Hey, let's
Gentlemen.
They don't, no.
Calm
You
down.
say they don't believe
We
in
can
education.
agree to
You just said
disagree.
that.
Yes,
Hey,
publicly.
that's Mr. Queen's, that's Mr. Queen's opinion,
And I have
and
the
you're,
right
I don't really care. It's I don't think it's wrong that he
Frank,
just said
no
that.
one interrupts
I
you,
have-
overrates you when you give your opinion. You shouldn't do it to other people.
yeah.
No,
I
I'm
have-
saying, I don't believe what you just said.
Well, don't.
Okay.
You have the opinion.
okay.
Yeah, that's my opinion. I don't believe what you said.
They're-
You just said that they don't believe in
We already
education.
heard what he said.
Guys,
Yes. Now reiterated.
hey,
Say it again.
It's
Say it again.
perception.
gentlemen, I have something to propose to the board
can I
to move
make-
us forward.
Can I
Yes.
just make a statement? So I remember last year when we were really in a really dark spot and we were right sizing, and I remember going through the requests. And think I remember asking you, because our ultimate goal is excellence in student achievement. Our job is to serve the students. So my question for every dollar we spend would be, how is that getting us to that goal? So hopefully that would be similar to maybe how Ms. McKenzie feels about the best use of our taxpayer dollar. Can we all maybe agree that that ultimately is what drives how we spend every dollar?
I don't think we disagree on that.
Okay, no, that's fine. I'm fine. I'm just saying that's ultimately what your budget should be, when you present it to us. The
Built
question
around.
I would want to ask you is, okay, I'm not going to ask you, but, how would this position get us there? I remember, because I think I think that was your whole presentation last year. Excellence, that's
Right,
what's driving
right.
us.
That
think
is,
this
that's
budget
what
does
we're
that.
striving for.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just making a statement.
What I'd like to offer the board, because clearly everyone on the board will be pondering this question around the temperature control need. So what I could do when we come back is I can bring forward the broke out costs, what it would cost for Garnett, what it would cost for the high school, and maybe we think about this in a multi-step process, right? Maybe
One school,
in
1 year.
one school, 1 year,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's something for us to consider. So again, tonight is about a proposal, and everything else is incorporated into what is our allocation for the budget.
Yeah.
Okay. The real question on the table is, the temperature control, and I'll bring forward some strategies. You know, we could do one school one year, second school the next year. We could defer both for a year. We could ask for support now. We could use our contingency. So there are options that we have as a board around that decision.
Yeah.
I think your question, you know, the guiding question of like, how does this support excellence and achievement is a great guiding question for us to reflect on as we think about those strategies. And I think, you know, as Ms. Swanson said, you know, in the meantime, we'll have our courtesy meeting with the commissioners. I look forward to that. I'm hopeful around us being able to move forward, you know, both with our own budget process as the normal process and our middle school. And so we'll also have the public hearing 2 weeks from tonight to see what the public has feedback for us. And then we'll be here to vote on the decision. So again, you know, we are light years ahead of where we were 12 months ago.
100% agree. And the fact that the only thing we're bickering about, I'm not gonna use the word bickering, that we're having a
Robust
discussion about,
discussion.
yes, it's light switches for heating and air conditioning. So I will say that's a testament to everything that went into just getting this draft in front of us with a zero deficit. That's the number I'm gonna keep looking at.
Well, thank you, and I just want to thank Mr. Kirby and all of our team members, principals, and you know, our teachers associations, and all of it, a community process to build a budget for our school system. So
I agree.
thank you for letting me propose this budget this evening, and I look forward to the next steps with our budget. And if it's okay with everyone, we can move on.
So the next thing is attendance monitoring.
Yep.
Is
This
that
is
still you?
It is still me, but it's my final one. You know, we are continuing to monitor this too as a good news item. You know, a month after month, you'll see we are making improvements compared to where we were 12 months ago. Just for those who may be looking at this on the TV, you'll see the little, you know, for example, last 30 days, our attendance was 93.61. We want it to
Get
be
back to
94
right?
or above
Yeah,
at all
right,
times.
Yeah.
But you'll see compared to last year at the same time, it was 92.33 last year. So we are 1.28%, you know, points improved compared to same time last year. Same with chronic absenteeism. You'll see that we are, you know, almost 10% better in terms of
We're trending in the right
trending in the right directions. So again, this is something I'll bring in May. I'll bring our April data so we kind of keep a pulse on that. So
Yeah, I think it's important. I know it seems like a minor thing, but those kinds of things are huge because attendance is a huge statewide problem.
Yes.
Now, we're small, so in my mind, there's no excuse for us not to know where every kid is every single day. And I understand how it must be such a nightmare for Prince George's or Baltimore City, but I think it's also important to highlight the good stuff, you know?
yes, it is. And
And I commend our principals and staff for whether it's incentives, whether it's new sneakers, whatever it is, to get kids to come to school, because you gotta show up to learn.
Yep.
'Cause,
Yep.
maybe you probably could speak to this, Trish. I remember like early when I first got here, attendance was an issue. Was it like 88, 89% before? And that's
Yeah.
like around 2010, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure that far back. I haven't researched
Yeah.
our data that far back off the top of my head. I don't know, but I do know nationwide,
Yeah.
statewide, and in every local school system,
Absenteeism and attendance
after the
are huge
pandemic
issues.
was
Yeah.
huge to
Yeah.
get everyone back in the system of we go to school, and so it's a statewide initiative, and I will again commend, just as you did, our school leaders and our community schools facilitators. Every community school plan in our system has attendance as one of their cornerstones, and you can see it is paying off.
You know, so I want to commend also our staff for knowing when our students aren't here and where they are, because I don't know if anybody followed the story in Baltimore, but after 10 days, if you don't show up, they unenroll you. And that happened with a 9-year-old little boy. They had no clue where he was. Well, you know, he was in foster care or with a grandmother or whatever, and it's hard to think that at the age of 9, somebody would just automatically unenroll you from school. So again, that's important for us to just sort of I don't care if it's micromanaging. I mean, that's our job to take care of our kids too and know where they are.
And
That's
attendance is something that should be micromanaged.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll just add last thing, you know, as educators, we operate under in parentis locus. So to your point, for a minor, in the absence of their parent, we serve as their acting parent, right? And so to your point, when you have a child who's a minor and you don't know where they are, we, you know, we not only are committed of our heart, but we're committed of our obligation as well. So is, Bill, did I put an extra slide? I've been trying to jazz up the attendance a little bit because, you know, after a while it all starts to. So here's another comparison to last year. I just, for a visual comparison, so you can see the top blue line is our trending data across every month of school this year compared to last year. So interestingly, look at last year's January and February and the dip that we had taken. Of course, we know last year we had a lot of inclement weather. This year we had it, but it came all at one time. Last year it was more sporadic. And so you can just visually see how our data is trending higher compared to just last year. So thank you. And that concludes the superintendent's report section of the agenda.
It says F report. Did that mean anything? Or I'm looking at E was attendance and F was report.
Oh, I think the report was just the general, you
Okay.
know, I think everything is my report.
Alrighty,
Thank you for
education services, the graduation speaker. Is that you, Ms. Hemstetter?
Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Almost graduation time.
Okay, hi again. Good evening, President McGee, Dr. McComas, and members of the board. Tonight, I am proud to bring forward a recommendation on behalf of Kent County High School in the class of 2026 for our graduation speaker. KCHS has selected Mrs. Jill Bramble as their invited speaker for the 2026 commencement ceremony. I've included in the board docs her biography. This recommendation reflects not only student voice, but also a deep alignment with the values and vision that we hold at KCHS. Mrs. Bramble is a proud Kent County High School graduate and a former 4-H member here in the county whose journey began right here. Through her experiences as a student athlete and leader, she developed the very qualities we strive to instill in her students: perseverance, teamwork, leadership, and service. Today, she serves as the president and CEO of the National 4-H Council, where she leads an organization impacting nearly 6 million youth nationwide. Her career reflects nearly 2 decades of dedication to youth development, workforce readiness, and empowering the next generation. What makes this selection especially meaningful is that Mrs. Bramble's story is rooted right here in Kent County. She openly credits her success to the teachers, mentors, coaches, and community members who invested in her, just as our staff continues to do every day for our students. Her message to our graduates will be authentic and powerful, that success is possible, that leadership starts here, and that our students can leave Kent County and also give back to it, which is what she is asking to do. At KCHS, again, we believe in respect, integrity, success, and empowerment. We rise together. Mrs. Bramble embodies each of these values, and she represents what it means to live them beyond graduation. Her selection provides our students with a real-world example of success grounded in community, a leader who understands their journey because she once walked the same halls of Kent County High School and middle school and also elementary, and a voice that will inspire them as they take their next steps. For these reasons, the KCHS administration respectfully recommends approval of Mrs. Jill Bramble as the class of 2026 graduation speaker.
All righty.
Questions?
Oh, like I wanted to clap.
I know,
was
I
like,
know,
"Yay."
I know. I'll also add that
89 is when she
she's
graduated.
the daughter of a career educator from Kent County Public Schools as well.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for a motion to approve Jill Bramble as the class of 2026 graduation speaker.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Ms. McKenzie's made the motion.
Second it.
Ms. Doherty is the second. Any comments, discussion?
Sounds awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah. I call for the vote. All in favor? Ms. Dorsey seconded. Ms. McKenzie made the motion. I call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. All righty. The cell phone policy.
I think I get to.
Oh, Shazam, sorry.
It's okay. Aye.
What do you say, Ms. Swanson?
Said
Aye.
All righty.
Thank
It
you
is
very
truly unanimous. Let's move on to the cell phone policy.
Yes, so I'm bringing forward this evening an update on our efforts to develop a Kent County Public Schools Board of Education cell phone policy. So for the viewing public, we brought forward an initial draft policy, I think it was in October. And we realized that we need to go back and engage parents and get more parent and stakeholder voice in the process. In the interim, we ran a survey, and I brought those results forward to the board, and I think that was in January. And then I wanted to have in-person conversations with parents to understand a little bit more around concerns related for those who want students to keep their cell phones on them during the day. I was hopeful to have my listening ears and understand more their worries and how might I mitigate those worries to make sure that we're focused on instruction and to also demonstrate a potential solution for storing cell phones away. And at the time I was looking at our middle schools. Well, while we were doing that, as life happens, the legislature brought forward a bill related to cell phones that would be applied statewide. So the Senate Bill 928 moved, I believe it was almost unanimous. So I think it was like almost except for one vote, unanimous in the Senate, if I understand correctly. And then it moved to the House. The House worked on it last week while we were in spring break, and it's House Bill 525, and it passed the House. So there was some refinement between the Senate bill and the House bill. When we were leaving for spring break, the Senate bill was the one that we had knowledge of at that point, and that's what was originally posted. Coming back from spring break today, we updated it with the House bill. What this bill does require is that each school system must establish a board policy no later than the 2027-2028 school year. So not next year, the year afterwards. Every school system in the state must have a board policy. Furthermore, the policy will prohibit the use of cell phones by students during the academic day with specific exemptions. So the exemptions are: one, a purpose documented in a student's IEP or 504 plan. To address a student's documented health monitoring needs. We know some students who have diabetic monitors. This is really important for their well-being. Number three, when directed by an instructor to be used as part of a lesson. Number four, to have access to language translation tools. We know we have students who English is not their family language, and they may be in the process of developing English and need translation tools. And when school devices are not available or sufficient for that purpose. And number five, for the purpose of meeting caregiving responsibilities as approved by the principal. There are instances where we have, high schoolers who are parents themselves, right? So that's what they mean in that caregiving situation, or you never know, they may be caring for a parent who may have a critical illness. But the principal could work on what qualifies for that. Each school will establish an operational procedure for storing student cell phones during the academic day. So this is what is in the new state legislation that has emerged while we were beginning to develop our own policy. So I'm bringing this forward tonight really as an information item at this point because, again, today was the last day of the General Assembly, and this will give us time to make sure that we are reviewing our policy in alignment with the very recently passed legislation, and time for us to work with our parents and our school system leaders and teachers. I had, prior to this legislation, been looking at, for example, a product to store cell phones in for the middle grades. And I was really focused on that because of the developmental age of the middle schoolers. And, you know, some people are in favor, some people aren't. What I talked to the principal about was identifying a team of teachers and administrator from the middle school to go to one of the other middle schools in the region that had been implementing it, so they could ask and see for themselves, did they think that that would work or not. And so now this requires us to have something as well for the high school. The storage might not be a product that we purchase, in that the example I was using at the community conversations, it might be like right now the middle school, they use the calculator pouches, right? That would constitute a procedure for storing cell phones during the academic day. I know in the high school, our math department there is an incredibly consistent team of professionals who, in the math department, they're really consistent. I don't know, Ms. Swanson, if you want to attest to anything in your own lived experience.
Yes.
Because the storage really comes down to the consistency of our professionals. And of course, if you have a substitute for the day, those kinds of things can not always be as consistently enforced.
Yeah, the math department has worked really hard to like make it clear that it's a no phone zone, and I'm taking a math class right now, and I will say it's gotten a little bit more lenient as time has gone on. It's also the type of math class that it's very self-paced, and it's not much of instruction that like being on your phone would take away from everyone else. So I don't know if that makes sense, but my class prioritizes phones like always being in the caddies less than I think other math classes do, because it's not as much about reducing distractions from the entire class, but, you know, just self-regulating for, you know, however you need to do your own assignments. But I know the entire math hallway is usually pretty consistent about that.
So how do you, can I ask, so how do you, when you come into math class, do you, is it autonomous? You're responsible for monitoring it yourself, or do you guys drop it in a bag, or what do you do?
Yeah, we each have a number, and we each put our phone in the number, and
Okay.
you know, my teacher can see if if a number is missing, and there are a few kids in my class that, you know, have plans that let them have their phones on them. But yeah, it does get kind of lenient sometimes, and sometimes people like the accountability doesn't hold up as well, especially if it's a larger class or if it's a type of day. My class is a weird example, but yeah, I'm not sure how it is in other classes, but I've heard it's pretty consistent.
I think, you know, anytime you have hundreds of people trying to enforce the same thing, it can be challenging. And that's where, you know, it sounds as simple as, oh, we put the calculator pouches and everyone do that. And I too would like to think would be that easy, but I know from experience administratively, it can be a real challenge. So I think it's important that our principals and their teachers help determine what is each building's greatest likelihood of high consistency, right? In terms of the storage requirement in the legislation. See that I knew the expectation was coming along. The state had put out last year that they are recommending boards develop policy. We were moving in that direction. Now there's a law requiring us to have it. So I think you know, I'd like to bring back our policy after I've had a little bit of time, especially to work with our high school. I've been working with the middle school more around this because, again, a 12, 13-year-old is at a different stage than a 17, 18-year-old. So I think, in all fairness, I need to kind of bring it back again, but at least everyone has the most up-to-date information.
And they know it's coming.
Yep.
It's not a theory anymore. It's
Right.
going to happen.
Yep.
2 years, right?
Well, that's the no later then. I would recommend we develop a policy, implement next year. We will make mistakes and we will learn from that implementation and we will refine it and then be even stronger the year that we're required to do it.
Is this something we can do, like tier the phone policy? Because one thing I do know, it's not universal in our school system right now.
Right.
I know I can go in a school building and see something different in Garnett than I will in Rock Hall versus the high school or middle school.
Right.
Once we get that in general concept of what the plan or policy should look like for instance, myself, right now, no one in elementary school should be using a phone. But is it prohibited? Are they not allowed to use it?
Well, in all of their schools, it's the out and like off and away during instruction, unless the teacher is saying, "I want you to use the calculator on your phone."
And that's,
right?
is that in policy?
No, it's in procedure. So we do not have a board policy. What we do have is each school has a procedure, right? When I talk to our elementary principals, it's not an issue, right? I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's really not an issue because elementary children are very compliant, right? And instinctively, elementary children, if they need support, they go to the grown-up that's right there, right? Middle school, and many families, research shows more and more families give their students cell phones as they're going into middle school. There is increasing numbers in 5th grade, but
Well, at some point, our 5th graders will be middle schools.
right,
And at
right.
not so long ago, they were middle school.
Right. So, so it really starts to become an issue at the middle grades, right? And that's also, of course, developmentally when students are hitting puberty and they become hyper aware of themselves and
Pushing boundaries.
So it is kind of like, what do they call it? The ultimate storm. Perfect storm. And so, again, that's part of why I have focused so much on middle school, and having served as a middle school principal multiple times, I know how truly dreadfully impactful it is on students, and especially middle school young ladies, I have to say. It breaks my heart. But, and then as they mature, again, it becomes, the management of it becomes different, right? And so that's why I think, I'm fine with the state. Obviously, the state has made a decision, and we all want students focused on academics. I absolutely do. For example, in our middle school, they were allowed to use their phones at recess or lunchtime. They go to lunch and then have some recess time. Well, this law forbids that.
Yeah, it's
right?
bell to
So
bell,
that's a
right?
change. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the other thing that, I think we need to consider is the smartwatches, right?
Yeah,
Because that is really an extension of this, right? So that's something for us as a board in our policy to think about, because, okay, we ban these and we know everyone's going to have these, right? And parents are going to be like, well, that's not in the policy, right? So that's something for us to think about. I know some of the other school systems, Howard County has some language in there around that, but that's now that this law is in place in the way it is written, that's more work for us to dig in and try to figure out what is the best operational plan, because we can have a policy that says no phones, but the reality is we have to be able to operationalize that in a way that works.
Because this definition does include smartwatches, because it says electronic communication.
Is that
Dorsey?
the Senate version or
Yeah.
the House version?
Smartwatch is considered jewelry.
Ms. Dorsey, what would you like to say?
I was getting ready to say the same thing, but I also wanted to ask a question. How did the parents actually feel about about not being able to have their child's location? Because I see here that that's something. I mean, they could find another type of device. I mean, this world is evolving. So that just basically tells them their child's location. I think that's very important to a lot of parents to know where their child is. So it says here that they're not allowed to have anything that would indicate their location.
Right.
I guess they assume that they're
In school?
You can assume, but I can guarantee you that every time.
Yeah, right,
children
yeah.
have slipped through a door, and even the school does not know. where they are.
Right. Schools aren't prisons. We
That
don't
must
have
be the
guards
House
at every
bill.
building.
That's the House bill.
That was the House bill, and that was the more recent one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Queen?
Let me ask this question. And Alden, I would appreciate if you chime in because it's kind of to your generation. The world that we're living in now is very rapidly moving with technology, and the phone is a big part of that. It's an extension of this laptop that we all carry around. Are we handicapping the high school students? Middle school and elementary, look, put your phones up, but I would be a little bit more lenient on high school students. Are we handicapping them for the real world? Are we really preparing them to go out into the world? If we say, from bell to bell, you can't have your phone, and she graduates, and then everyone's on the phone. How are we preparing
You know,
them to be up to speed
Well,
on
you know,
what their
there,
life is?
there are some employers
Right.
that prohibit a
Right.
cell phone during the workday.
It's not a lot.
Yes.
Washington College is one of them, believe it or not.
He on their phone?
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying they're not supposed to be. So,
Yeah, yes.
Plus, a lot of the kids are using their phones instead of their brains. And when they graduate, now we don't have all of them, but we can't do what this percentage knows how to use their phone and never use it as a cheat method. But because we're responsible as a system to try to ensure everybody has a good education, then we don't want to give them that, avenue and then find out they've taken such total advantage of it, they don't know anything.
Right. I do think with AI, it is increasingly becoming challenging to know. Now, as I talk with teachers, and when you read something that's written by AI, you can tell, like,
You can
is that
tell.
something a 14-year-old writes, or is that something a computer generates? But over time, that will become more sophisticated as well. So I think, this is where we are. And I mean, I certainly am about our students focusing on academics, right? And I'm not an anti-technology person. I think time and place. And to your question, Mr. Queen, I think my thinking around the high school students is I think about our juniors and seniors who their schedules are variable, right? They're on campus for a bit of their day, then they're at a college campus, or they're at an internship, or, and again, this is, to me, everything should be about learning, right? So how do we make this about learning, right? Both helping them, right, be focused on their academics and learning that self-control, learning time, place, and appropriateness, right? All of us have our, our devices here. We learn to self-manage. I like to flip mine so I can't see my screen because then I can't be distracted. But then when Mr. Bill is telling me, Mr. Poor is telling me the technology, I miss his message, right? So we all have to learn how to self-regulate.
so just from a state perspective, the Senate bill was unanimous. The House bill had one dissent. So that's amazing to think that all those legislators, if there's one thing they could agree on, it was that.
Yeah.
And I think the two primary reasons were A, the disruption to education, and then the whole bullying and all that,
Yeah,
that other
it's a
side.
huge
I mean,
problem.
there's no way to legislate every single condition.
Right.
So
Yep.
we may have to just make our priorities. I don't know.
Right.
Can I?
Yes, sir.
You're talking about the AI. If you go on your search, you can get your own personal AI assistant, a real person.
Okay.
I mean, it's really
Yeah.
really bizarre. You can pick anyone you want and you can talk to him right on your computer.
Right. I know it is
Crazy.
crazy. Yes, Miss Swanson.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Mr. Queen's point because I think it's a really interesting point, and also about the self-regulation and about learning how to, interact with their device in a productive way. Because just banning them totally, I think there's a certain hypocrisy to that because, we all have our phones out. A lot of workplaces have that. But I do think that a lot of workplaces aren't just going to let you be on your phone, and if they're going to, and people once they graduate are going to learn really quickly, or they're going to have that experience that's not okay. And I think it's okay to make that mistake and learn from it, and I don't think we're dooming people if we're making them think it's okay, because they'll learn pretty quickly that it's not, if that makes sense. And also
Life is shown quickly.
yeah, but also, I don't think that the solution to this is to just ban phones and then not talk about them at all. I really think that digital citizenship and digital literacy and knowing how they work, how they affect your brain and how they affect your attention span and your work ethic. I think we need to be talking more about it instead of removing them completely from the school system, from the conversation. I think that's what we should be prioritizing, because just making them this scary taboo thing is also not the solution, in my opinion.
Open up a broader conversation.
Yeah.
With
Hand
layers.
in hand.
Yeah,
right?
because then you won't, it's not like you're taking something away from them. It's you're showing students how to,
Responsible use.
yeah. It feels more like a as a student, that would feel more like an effort to be a partnership and a learning opportunity than just a you don't know how to use this, we're taking it away from you.
Right.
And I like that word, partnership.
Yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
I like that the fact that when you say give them the knowledge that they need, especially in the early years, elementary and middle. Sometimes parents they have used it as a form of it relieves them, and they don't know the damage that they're doing to their children.
Right.
Very early.
One of the things I think that should also go hand in hand with this, and then I'll just wrap it up, and certainly if the board has more questions or discussions, we can continue, but building out parent workshops, especially for parents who are parents of fourth and fifth graders, to really build parent capacity around how do you monitor your child's cell phone? How do you, like
Wait until 8.
Yeah, Wait Until 8 has some great resources on there for parents. And so I think that that's something that we can do as part of this work, right? Not just have a policy, but have a curriculum where we're teaching digital citizenship. And by the way, we need to develop that curriculum. But then also resources to support parents in helping to introduce their child, monitor them, because it's easy to say, but it's really hard to monitor your children's phone. Could be a whole job in and of itself sometimes. So
Yeah.
so I'll leave it there for this evening, but we'll be back and you have the
So,
latest
and I'm
and
just curious, I mean, if this is the version that passes ultimately, then we really don't have flexibility. So if this passes as is,
right.
then all of these types of devices will not be. Okay.
And since today was the last day of the legislature, we'll be able to know pretty quickly. But so thank you everyone for understanding that as we were doing our work, other things were evolving legislatively, and where we left right before spring break, it even evolved just a little bit more while we were away last week. So thank you, and that concludes the cell phone for today.
Yeah, well, at some point, or maybe there isn't, right now it's just information discussion, but at some point, we're going to have to prove something.
Well, we're going to have to produce a policy and
Okay.
and you'll have to approve it, and then I will have to have an implementation plan.
I got
You were saying you would like for it to go into next school year, but technically, we got 2 years.
Technically, but I don't see how we do ourselves any service
Yeah.
by waiting. Because people are going to react no matter what. So why delay and allow kids to have one more year of distraction from their academics when that could be one more year they're more focused on academics?
Let me ask one quick question, because from the studies, it was like 50-50 with parents, for and against.
Yeah.
Is it any way with maybe surveys, we kind of ask questions to kind of lean them in one direction or another?
Well, that's where I was hoping to have those in-person conversations, and I'm sure next year, the beginning of the year, the beginning of the year is a good time. People are coming to school buildings to have those who say they want their child to have their phone with them. It's out of a sense of safety, right? So what else can I do or we do as a school system to help them feel just as safe? Right.
I remember we was at the table.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I ain't gonna say who said it, but at my table said, it's nothing you can do
Right.
to fix that.
Right. Well,
Yeah, you just got to work through those anxious feelings because it's going to be a change and people are going to experience, anxiety with that.
But we
And-
have to consider, why is it that they feel like it's nothing we can do? Is it from past things that they feel like they have experienced that make them feel like there's nothing that we can do because
I would say
of the
yes.
lack of trust, or what they've seen in the past as far as their children's safety or bullying and things like that? How can we make them feel better about that or reassure them that we are working on that to change it? Because I feel like it's things like that really make them feel like their child needs a phone.
right.
Now,
right.
if you can eliminate ththose things, they would feel more comfortable about you
Right.
taking the phone. It's not that they don't agree with you that
Right.
it's
Right.
interrupting their work day. I mean, their school day.
Yeah.
They don't want their children to even have to be able to have that phone to use it instead of their own brain. But at the same time, the main thing they want is for them to be safe. They want the child to come home.
Yeah.
They want them mentally not to be stressed and, and, they just don't want them to have, all these issues for things that they can't control because they're not there.
Yeah,
Safety
yeah.
interest was the
I
biggest.
I do get that. I do understand that, and that's where I was hoping to have some, because sometimes when you're talking and listening to people, an insight will emerge that you'll be able to take action on and be like, you know what I just heard was a nugget of something that I can, if I do this, this will be helpful, right? That's what I was really hopeful to have. So we'll continue down this journey, and you have the latest, and we'll be back. I'm not making a commitment right now, but in order to have something for next school year, I can't wait too long. We only have,
I got you.
you know.
Alrighty, Ms. Giacomowitz, policy, student promotion, retention, and acceleration.
Good evening, President McGee, Dr. McComas, members of the board. Tonight, I bring forward two pieces. The first one is approval for policy JBA, which is the student retention promotion policy brought to you last month. As we discussed last time we were together, the major changes reflected in the policy were including more specificity around the definitions and aligning it with the Maryland literacy policy that was adopted maybe in October. I forget the exact date, but somewhere in there. So there's an alignment with our policy to the state policy. And then in addition to that, I will also spend a little more time on the next piece, which is the companion procedure that aligns with that. So I'd like to first request approval for the policy that was brought forward last month, policy JBA.
And I'll get that at Glitter Bundle.
Right. So, I'm, this is a question because obviously I can't make the motion, but I'm looking at it and I see a lot of red. And usually that's an indication of, well, experience has told me that many times when we amend a policy, it's driven by state language. So I'm curious, is that mostly what's going on with this? And one of the things, so the policy dates from 2014, and has it not been revised for 12 years?
Correct.
Okay.
This is the first revision in 12 years.
Is that because it didn't need it, or because it kind of fell by the wayside, or?
No, we've been following the guidance, and usually our policies are very general. So
Okay.
it's not always necessary to bring revisions to the policy. However, with the state shift in literacy and the emphasis on the science of reading and the expectation that students will be able to make progress and read by the end of third grade as measured by the state assessment,
Right.
that then prompted some clarity in terms of the definitions that go along with it, and also the process, which is going to be more detailed in our procedure.
Back to my statement, almost the whole thing is red.
Correct.
So that's a biggie. I mean, it changed, but is it basically driven by what's
By the
going?
state language,
I gotcha.
by the state changes.
Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha.
In fact, every modification that has been made, this has been probably 6 months worth of work.
Okay.
And partnership, utilizing the state policy feedback sessions with MSDE, and then looking at our previous procedure and what we needed to do to align those two documents.
Okay, great. So anyhow, I'm looking for a motion to approve the revised student promotion, retention, and acceleration policy, JBA.
One quick question about E. Can you elaborate what good cause exemptions mean?
Absolutely. So the specifics about good cause exemption are spelled out in the procedure, which is the next document that I'm bringing forward. Roman numeral 6, if you look in the procedure, it goes into an example of a good cause exemption. And just to summarize this, basically you're looking at a school-based team that would have a student brought forward where they have not met the state expectation on the assessment. However, they may have other reasons for not being retained. One of those may be a student with a disability. If they have an IEP and It indicates participation not working toward a diploma, so we call it the Maryland Alternate Education Framework. That would be a good cause exemption. Another one would be a multilingual learner who has received less than 2 years of instruction aligned to the WIDA standards. So if they have less than 2 years, the team would meet, and that would be, again, an example where the team may recommend promoting for a good cause exemption. And then finally, students that have IEPs or 504 plans have received intensive interventions for at least 2 years, but still continue to demonstrate reading difficulties and have also been previously retained in grades 2, 3, or 4. So this procedure does not allow a child to be retained multiple times before grade 3. One retention.
Let me ask, the answers you just gave is from the next
Yes,
documentation?
yes, sir.
The
That's right.
procedure.
I don't want to vote on this and then have a million questions.
That's
waiting on the
okay.
next answer, you know?
So, and we did it this way. We were back and forth. We call them the policy, which guides everything, of course, but then the procedure is kind of the nitty gritty. That's where you get into the, you know,
Procedure, we don't address, I mean,
Yeah, that's
we
their
don't
work,
approve it,
right.
that's, that, you know.
right. You
We
approve the
adopt
policy.
it.
I approve
Yeah,
that.
we deal with the policy, how it's implemented is not up to us.
Correct.
Correct. All right, I'm kidding.
I have a question. When you talk about the retention and that they will not be able to be held but 1 year. Now, if they were a student who needed to be held 2 years, 3 years, I know that's extreme. What do we do to help them if we're passing them on, but they still have the problem, or they're still facing whatever it was that would have made them?
So that's a great question. And I think one of the things you'll notice as you look over the procedure, the one that we're not voting on, but more for information tonight, is that there's an incredible increase in accountability for individual student progress. And you've heard Dr. McComas talk about personalizing the learning at the school level.
Yes.
Every student will be required to have an individualized learning plan that will address their specific needs. Oftentimes, if it's prior to grade 3, it has to do with the foundational reading skills. So that plan would still allow them to get intensive intervention while still having access to grade level standards and curriculum. So I think if you're asking, is there ever going to be a time where a child may have to be retained twice? The procedure that we're putting in place that aligns with the state literacy policy does not permit a child to be retained twice up to 3rd grade.
If I may also add to that, what I would offer, Ms. Dorsey, is that this is where during the school day, not only would they be in their normal reading class, but they would have their intervention. Each of our schools have that intervention and enrichment period so that they get extra instruction there. Thankfully, with our community schools resources, we can provide after school tutoring and summer learning. So in most instances, when a child is struggling, especially at those early grades, they need a longer runway. They need more time with a reading teacher. They need more practice. And so it's on us then to figure out how do we build that longer runway for them. And we do that by giving them more time during the school day using the intervention period, giving them more time for learning with tutoring after school, giving them more time for learning in the summer program. So that's part of why I'm a huge proponent of strong summer programs, because some students need longer. They just need a longer amount of time. They need more practice. They need more support. And, you know, sort of like traditional models, instead of doing a good job of giving students a longer runway, we kind of punish them, right? And so that's the challenge, is how do we create more time and support for them? And that's where these individual learning plans that the state now will require every school system to have for students who aren't on grade level, we're going to have to put on to paper, how are we building that extra support and monitor that. And so that's what I would just offer. That's how we do that, right? So, and when students have to be held back twice, what happens is you end up with a 16-year-old in 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we try to limit that number of times that we hold them back, because then you end up with 16-year-olds in 8th grade. So, and that's almost guaranteed to drop out. And so that's why we really have to build out, we almost need to create, if the world were just my oyster and I could create whatever I would create 12 months schooling for some students, 10 months schooling for other students. It just depends what you need, right? And maybe I need 12 months for math, but not for reading. You know what I mean? I think if we could design a flexible learning model that could truly be flexible that way, that would be the best. But we have this factory model we've inherited, and we're trying to make do.
Yeah, what about a kid a student who may be on grade, from the actual body, that they're able to do the work, to be promoted, but socially or emotionally, they're not really ready to move on. I don't know if you're able to address that. I mean, we're in a small county, maybe I'm just splitting hairs, but you must run into a parent that says, my kid's not ready to go to 1st grade yet, or, I mean.
Well, that's what I was wondering, especially prior to kindergarten, how you're considering a child's readiness.
So thank you for asking that. I think you bring up a very valid question. And when it comes to early intervention, if there is going to be an opportunity to intervene, the earlier the better. So we are not in any way suggesting wait until 3rd grade and figure out whether or not they need to be retained. And parents have an important voice. And I think
No, that's what I'm
that's the
saying.
point
What
that you're
if, on paper,
Right.
let's pretend it's me, and I'm going to have the slide rule issue, but let's pretend it's me, and right now, I don't want to say intellectually, but in terms of grasping the material, I should be promoted from kindergarten to 1st grade.
Right.
But I'll give a perfect example. Back in the day when I went to school, you had until the end of the school year. Literally, the end of the calendar year. I did not turn 6 until December. I went to 1st grade as a 5-year-old. So, and while I might have been able to handle the actual academic part, I really wasn't ready for 1st grade, and I continually missed the bus because I just didn't want to go to school. What do you do? Or do you not do?
You do.
You wrap around services. Wraparound service. Yeah.
The part that you're mentioning is not new to Kent County and also not new
I'm sure it's not new to you,
right?
I'm just saying.
So we have teams in place at the school level, the student support teams, that work collaboratively every day, basically to think through all parts of a child's development. So yes, while this policy is focused on literacy development, certainly a student that you just described, we would take that information before the team and look at the whole child. So you'd look at the social needs, the emotional, the physical development is another one that plays an important role, because all of these pieces together help that student support team bring the best recommendation. The family also has an important voice. Particularly, we've seen this, many of us have worked at the elementary level, there aren't many of us out here, but several of us here have worked at the elementary level where, it's through those intimate meetings that you find out perhaps a child really hasn't had their hearing screened. And that may be the reason or the cause that you're seeing some of those struggles come up. So I think, the answer to your question is we do consider the whole child, and it is not a single person making that decision.
I noticed it was a team, which
It is a team, and it's also not a single test score. And I think my gut reaction, and Dr. McComas and I had this discussion when we first were made aware of the push to retain. It's very offensive to think about that, because there's so much more than a single score to a child. The state has now addressed that through this lengthy red procedure that I'm bringing to you. And one of the pieces that's in the red procedure is that there can be multiple points of progress, not just a single test score, that you must look at the child's whole profile to really make a well-informed decision. There is also an appeal process in place. So if as the parent you disagree, you have a chance to come in again and have that discussion with the team and have an equal voice at the table so that we can come to the best decision for the child. So I hope that I provided this to you early enough that you had a chance to read through. And I did see a few other questions. Did you want to ask?
Well, I want to first thank you for explaining that, as far as for the children that's under, that's third grade and under. I guess one of the things I was concerned about, because I've always heard of the No Child Left Behind, which really concerns me. And I know we may not be talking about that, but that's more so in the high school and middle school. Does that still exist? Because I don't see anyone that's retained.
I can comment to Ms. Dorsey. That legislation has been superseded, so there's newer legislation. The Every Student Succeeds, ESSA, is the new legislation. So the No Child Left Behind legislation was federal law, probably 10 years.
It was
10 years ago.
and before
then
that was
they-
Race to the Top.
Right. So what happens? Right. So what happens is the federal government will pass a law, right? And they usually give it a catchy name to make it memorable, and then it's usually has a timeline on it, and then it comes up for renewal. And usually then the feds make some changes.
When they
Congress-
realize they can't hit that mark, they change it.
Right. So the current legislation is Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSE. Is there ESA? Thank you. I need extra time when spelling clearly, but so that's what the new law is. That's why you don't hear it as much as you used to.
Okay, so what does it cover?
Well, it deals with literacy and math. A lot of times it's the same things, but this is our state superintendent and our state
Superintendent-led,
board
Mhm.
is really driving this initiative based on her real experience and the progress they made in Mississippi when she really lifted Mississippi up. So a lot of this is anchored in that work. I don't know if that helped or not, but I'm sorry if it did not.
I guess in the older, grade levels, a lot of the kids, they leave the high school not knowing certain things.
Mhm.
And
They do.
it concerns me.
Isn't there a literacy process? I don't know if it's been approved or not, but for later grades, isn't there one that's they're discussing now?
working
There's a secondary literacy policy as well. We have not brought that forward yet, but that is something that we are working on with the state. So the primary changes you see right here are all pre-K to 3.
Yeah, I just had to ask that question because that was really the foundation of why I was feeling like I did.
Got it.
And, I know that, like you said, summer school, and different things like that, it's very important. I really would encourage, or it would be my hope that we could increase that every year.
Me too. Me too.
Since you've been here. And because even with the, pandemic, a lot of the children still have not caught up.
Thank you.
Anybody have any other questions? Alrighty, again, I'm looking for approval for the revised Student Promotion, Retention, and Acceleration Policy, JBA.
Need a motion, right?
Correct, yes.
I motion approval for policy JBA, student promotion, retention, and acceleration.
Mr. Queens made the motion. I need a second.
I'll second it.
Ms. Dorsey's made the second. Is there any other discussion? Excuse me. I call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Alrighty. Moving on. Alden?
Oh, I got one. Cool. Aye.
Excuse me. Alrighty. The procedure that goes along with this.
And that's really an information.
For information
Okay.
only. And thank you. I think we did address several of the
Excuse me.
questions, but if there are any more, I'd be happy to stay here to answer any additional questions.
Thank you.
If
Okay.
there are any other, you can send them in and we'll answer them.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Mr. Kirby, Administrative Services?
Good evening, President McGee, Dr. McComas, members of the board. Before you tonight, I've got our March 31st, 2026 revenue and expenditure reports. So first up, as always, we'll look at our cash receipts. So through the end of March so far this year, for current expense, we've received about $34.3 million. Moving down to Fund 5 for food service, it's about $1.2 million, and then giving us a total cash receipts of about $35.5 million so far this year. Moving down to current expense fund, of our $35 million, we have about $5.5 million remaining. As always with our new presentation at the end, you'll see where we are this year versus last year to kind of give you some context of what that really looks like compared to a typical year. So moving down to.
Actually, just a quick
Sure.
question. Can you
Yep.
just remind me what capital outlay is?
Yep, so that would be like aging schools program funding for those kind of projects. And then we have our $15,000 each year for asbestos abatement if anything pops up. Yep. And going forward next year, aging schools is sunsetting. So this number will basically just be 15,000 moving forward because we'll have expended all of our aging schools funding. So all that will be left in capital outlay each year right now will be that asbestos abatement funding.
Okay, thank you.
Moving down to school construction fund, I made an adjustment because so far through each month this year, we were carrying about a $2.2 million figure. I think I explained last month where the reimbursement process is different since we have MSA doing the project management for the middle school project. So MSA and the county commissioners are working together to just directly pay MSA for holding these contracts. So in the past, it used to come through us, and then, we would pay the contractors or the architects, and then we would request reimbursement from the county. Like I said, MSA is kind of doing that process for us now to kind of alleviate that on our plate. So that's why we're not carrying that full amount anymore. It's not because we're not getting that funding anymore. It's just that we don't have to carry it inside of our budget because we're not the ones actually cutting the check. So moving down to food service, of our 1.7 million, we've got about 191,000 left in there. And then for our grants and restricted funds, we've got about just a little over $3 million left in those funds for this year. And we'll see our typical graphs. And then here is our comparison from this time this year versus last year. So up top here, this first item you see here, this 5.5 is where we are today as of March 31st. And then going down, this is where we were this time last year. So we're still holding right around a $2.1 million difference in available funding. So, just in the grand scheme of things, hopefully that means as, RECODE's coming at the end of the year, we can hopefully add more to our fund balance essentially. So, any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
No, none for me. Any questions? Just for information.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Thank you, Mr. Kirby.
Thank
Can I ask, I will ask a question. It's not really so much specifically about this, but I figured you'd be the guy to know. How far along are we on the roof at the Wharton
So
Elementary?
they're about 2 weeks in. So we're estimating about another 5 to 6 weeks, depending on weather.
Has there been
But
any
there have not been any
unexpected-
no
Okay.
unforeseen
I've
so
seen
far.
an army up there,
Yep.
so, okay.
No, knock on wood. There hasn't been any decking issues when
Okay,
they
that's good to know.
pulled anything off so far. So
Alrighty.
good news so far.
Thank you very much. All righty. We'll go to board discussions. Ms. Swanson, I'll start with you.
Sure. I don't know. I just want to first and foremost say that I'm so very excited about this new funding news. I think that I know I'm preaching to the choir, but we should all just be super excited because this is great for us. And even though we had some, bumps in the road, we were still, way better than where we were like a month ago, especially a year ago. So I think we just need to be super excited about that right now, especially with decisions about that coming up. So just keeping up the positive energy. And I just realized that I don't think I think I talked to Trish about this and Dr. McComas, but our American Exchange project.
I watched the video. That was so cool.
Yeah.
So tell us about it.
Yeah.
And where the kids are going.
Yeah. So last March 13th, it was a Friday. We had what we call American Exchange Project Celebration Day. So all of the kids from all the seniors from Kent County High School found out where they're going. And we had like donuts, and it was like this whole fun
I felt
little
like
activity.
they were opening their medical school envelope. I've just been
Yes.
sent here. Yeah.
Yeah. They had we gave them backpacks and sort of like souvenirs, and they got these little goodie bags, and they got their letters saying where they were gonna go. So we recorded them, and they were like, "I'm Alden, and I'm going to Utah," and I actually am going to Utah, which is really exciting. But we have multiple, I think 4 or 5 kids going to different places in California. We have 3 people going, I think including me going to different places in Utah.
Somebody's going to Alaska.
Somebody's going to Anchorage, Alaska, my friend Maddie, which is very exciting. Sorry, name drop. Someone's going to Oregon, somebody's going to Colorado, someone's going to Dodge City, Kansas. So all very far away from here, but really, really exciting places. And everyone's super excited. And I have my first meeting with my travel cohort tomorrow. And so everything's moving along smoothly.
Does everybody go at the same time? Is it the same couple of weeks or no?
No,
Okay.
there are like 7 different sessions that you can go in. So, if you have a vacation planned, for 1 week, you can work around that. Or if you have work for most of
And
the
how
summer,
long
then
is
you
it? 3
can-
weeks? How
It's
lo-
just one week
Oh, just
to
1 week?
travel. But
Okay.
then there's also the hometown week that you're expected to like help out with. So when other people come to Kent County, you're supposed to help, run the week and, be a kid there because Dr. Saunders is great, but it's not, the point isn't for a bunch of high schoolers to hang out with the exchange manager. It's for them to hang out with kids like from Kent
Yeah.
County and, get that. So it's a 2-week experience is what
Okay.
it's advertised as.
That really
but-
sounded,
Yeah.
I watched the thing and I was just smiling the whole time, like,
Yeah.
Alaska,
No, everyone's
Utah, you know?
everyone's so surprised and it's like and so happy. It's such great energy right now.
Thank you
Yeah.
for shepherding that along and really,
Growing up.
and making it happen, you
Yeah.
know?
I'm so excited that it actually
No, it is cool.
came to be.
And you
Yeah.
got a great grown-up partner in Dr.
Yes.
Saunders,
It is-
you know?
Been hard, but
Yeah.
we've been working together and she's been great. And yeah, we've had a lot of help. Now the next step is sort of planning the hometown week and seeing what we're going to do. But we have a lot of great organizations that are, willing to help. And we have a lot of cool stuff to do. We have a river, we have hikes,
Yeah.
it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah. Also, just 2 other things. The band trip is coming up this week, so that's exciting.
Will you
We're
give
going
us
to-
a report when you come back?
Of course.
Okay.
Yes. We're going to Williamsburg and we're going to compete and it's going to be awesome. And can't believe it's already this week. And then prom's coming up too. I can give you a report on that. I'm sure you guys will see pictures on Facebook or whatever. But yep, exciting things are coming. And then I graduate and that's crazy too. But yeah, good energy. That's all I have.
I don't want to push you out the door yet, but
Go.
where are we on the process of your successor here on the board? When will that happen? Do you
I
know?
think that all happens after seniors leave,
Okay.
because our
Hemster and I will be working on
Yeah.
getting
Okay.
those together.
yeah.
Because the new board member technically starts July, right? Unless they're in Alaska for the summer, like
Yeah.
might happen. So I got you. Okay.
Yeah, but
All righty. Thank you.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So technically, we can't count that as a SMART report, right?
what do you mean?
Yeah, the exchange student, the videos,
Mm-hmm.
showing that. That's not really a SMART report. So I do have a complaint.
Oh,
I haven't seen one in a while. What's going on?
I haven't put mine out for this last meeting, but the one for March is out. I've been keeping up pretty well.
March out?
Yeah, March is
Okay.
out. They
My complaint is down.
okay. Yes, April's been wild, but March is out and all the preceding ones are, and
Okay,
April will be
great.
out soon.
I was gonna say, well, today is our first April meeting, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All righty.
Uh,
Mr. Rhodes.
Oh wait,
Oh, I'm sorry, Alden.
It's not done.
no. I think March is out. Maybe I didn't. Maybe Mr. Porter. No, I don't know. I'll
I'm gonna
figure it
go
out.
look. Don't
Yeah,
worry. I'll
okay,
let you
okay.
know.
Mhm. Yeah. you can go.
All righty. Mr. Rhodes.
I just want to thank you for your detailed budget report. That was very well done. And all I want to do is focus on our school. It's my main mission. We got to get this across the finish line. I
Appreciate
know it'll
that.
happen. So.
Thank you.
All righty. Mr. Queen.
Everybody who voted on the calendar and planned on the calendar last year, I appreciate you because this was one of the times on spring break where I actually had a chance to actually be around my family and just relax and not do too much. So I do like the longer spring break. It worked out perfect for me, and that's all I have.
All righty. Miss Dorsey.
I pass.
All righty. Miss McKenzie.
I know it's kind of already out there, but I just thought I'd mention the fact that Maeve's board of directors voted in Joe Getz as the new executive director.
Oh, yeah.
So I thought that
Thank you
that was really
For bringing
exciting.
that up.
Shout out Joe Getz.
Yeah, that's really exciting.
I
I think.
can't think of, seriously, I cannot think of anyone more qualified than Joe. you know?
Yeah, it was a
Awesome.
great choice.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, we're all very, I think, so
Big for
proud,
Maine and
proud.
big for
Yeah,
Kent County.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Representing
Was,
us well.
was that all?
That
you
was
had?
all.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Just a couple of reminders, at least to the board, that Thursday is the Teacher of the Year
Yes.
celebration at Kent County High School. Mr. Hushin, what time does that start? 5 is a reception and then the actual thing? Yeah, I got you. All righty. Also want to remind that the Board of Education will meet in 2 weeks from today on April 27th for a public hearing on the fiscal year 2027 budget. We will meet at 5:30 for a closed session, correct?
Yes.
With, now what, I'm gonna, yeah, we are.
we will
I'm ahead of you there, Miss Gale. And so I've got a question for Mr. Hushin. Can we do what we need to do in a half hour, or do you think you need an hour?
Actually not going to be present. I'm going to be at the Bayside Athletic Scholar Athletes Dinner.
Okay.
So it would really be.
I would request an hour.
Well, okay, got an hour. Okay. So a typical thing. So we'll meet for a closed session at 5:30. Well, we'll convene an open session, immediately go into closed session and reconvene an open session at 6:30. Does that sound good? And then the actual real next board meeting is Monday, May 11th, the traditional 5:30. Also, just a reminder to my fellow board members that next Tuesday at 3 o'clock, well, the commissioners are doing a budget workshop. They've specifically asked Dr. McComas to come in to talk about A, the budget, and B, the middle school. All righty. I think that's about it. I am looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Ms. McKenzie's made the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Rhodes seconded. Is there any discussion? I call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Swanson?